Chapter 1619. Let's go. I'll take you to the treasure pavilion and see who dares to block us. Seeing Jiangchen accept it, Huafu's face immediately revealed a charming smile. She grabbed Jiangchen's hand and walked into the passage. Let's go take a look ourselves. Jiangchen struggled to break free. Okay, big sister owes you a favor. If you need anything in the future, just let me know. I will definitely repay you. Huafu stretched out her slender finger and slid it on Jiangchen's chest, then gave Jiangchen a coquettish look. I can promise you anything. Eldest senior brother, phone you, let's go out and take a look. Jiangchen couldn't help but shiver. After suppressing the evil fire in his abdomen, he immediately rushed into the passage. Behind him, Bai Xiaoyan and Bai Fengyu followed closely. But when they left, Bai Fengyu turned her head and glanced at Huafu. Why is this girl so hostile towards me? Huafu looked at Bai Fengyu's slender figure. She stayed by Jiangchen's side for more than 20 days. Why do you think she is so hostile towards you? Old Shu chuckled. Since he is safe and sound, then I will return to the wood barrier. Thank you for your help. Little Ape cupped his hands. After leaving the light barrier, Jiangchen immediately rushed in the direction of the treasure pavilion. With his current cultivation of the second layer of the Heaven Immortal Realm, coupled with the fact that he had completely comprehended the light attraction technique, it should not be a problem for him to enter the third floor or even the other floors above. As for those sects from the eastern and northern regions, Jiangchen did not take them to heart. The three immortal kings had already been seriously injured by the Great Elder. As for the others, Bai Xiaoyan could directly deal with them. Who would have thought that just as he arrived in front of the treasure pavilion, someone would stop him? People from the eastern region are not allowed to come close. The two people stared at Jiangchen, stretched out their arms to stop the three of them, and said in a very disdainful tone, "Oh, do you think I'm from the eastern region?" Jiangchen smiled faintly. "I'm a disciple of the 9th mountain of the Kunlun Celestial Mountain. Am I not from the northern region?" "What Kunlun Celestial Mountain? Ever since we met you, you've always been on the side of the Qinna sect in the eastern region. Do you think you're worthy of being called someone from the northern region? Don't think that we don't know that you're a disciple who was kicked out by the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. How dare you say that you're from the Kunlun Immortal Mountain?" When the two heard Jiangchen's words, they directly sneered. When Jiangchen took out the treasures from the treasure pavilion, Sun Sheng deliberately went to inquire about it and learned about Jiangchen's deeds in the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. "Oh, the first mountain chieftain of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain is just outside. If you don't believe that I'm a disciple of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain, why don't I invite her in and explain to you?" Jiangchen was not angry. "You." The two of them didn't know what to say. All the words were blocked by Jiangchen. They did not dare to provoke the first mountain lord. "Get out of the way." Bai Xiaoyan frowned and shouted in a low voice. Under Bai Xiaoyan's imposing manner, the two of them were instantly forced to retreat. "What do you mean? Are you trying to barge in here?" Just as they were retreating, Sun Sheng walked out with the people of the Yin-Yang sect. He looked at Jiangchen with a sinister gaze. He still remembered the previous incident and was planning how to get the treasures in Jiangchen's hands. "Let's go, eldest senior brother." Jiangchen ignored him. After saying a few words to Bai Xiaoyan, he walked straight to the treasure pavilion with Bai Fengyu. "Stand there," Sun Sheng roared. He could not let Jiangchen enter again. Since the sects of the north and south region could not get the treasures inside, the people of the east region could not enter either. When the immortal emperor's tomb closed, no one would be able to get the treasures. At that time, his heart would be at peace. The small sects of the north and south region did not dare to offend him and could only follow Sun Sheng's instructions. "You go, I'll stop him," Bai Xiaoyan whispered to Jiangchen. Anyway, Sun Sheng did not dare to attack Jiangchen directly due to the promise of 1,000 years and the promise of 2 realms. "Okay, Fengyu, follow me." Jiangchen nodded and continued to walk towards the treasure pavilion. "Everyone below the immortal supremacy level, listen up. Stop him for me." Seeing that Jiangchen did not listen to his words, Sun Sheng immediately ordered all the disciples around him. Even if he couldn't attack Jiangchen directly, the disciples he had brought with him from his sect would definitely be able to stop Jiangchen. Yes, 10 odd disciples of immortals and immortals stepped forward as soon as they received the order. They surrounded Jiang Chun. "Elder son, for the sake of your injury, I don't want to attack you. Take your people and leave here." Bai Xiaoyan narrowed her eyes and looked at Sun Sheng. There were less than 3 days left before the immortal emperor's tomb disappeared. If they did not hurry up, they would not have the chance to get the real treasure in the tomb. "I just need to delay you and let them kill Jiang Chun." Sun Sheng smiled sinisterly. "Ha!" Bai Xiaoyan laughed and swung her right arm. A long sword suddenly appeared in her hand. Then, she rushed out like a shadow and stabbed fiercely towards Sun Sheng. With her strength, she was confident that she could kill the injured Sun Sheng. On the other hand, Sun Sheng did not dare to let his guard down. The moment Bai Xiaoyan attacked, his body was covered in a black and white immortal armor, ready to meet Bai Xiaoyan. In front of the treasure pavilion, Jiang Qin held Bai Fenyu's arm with one hand. These disciples of the Yin-Yang sect were at most at the immortal realm. He did not take them seriously, especially now that his cultivation had advanced to the second stage of the heaven immortal realm. He did not feel much pressure when facing these people. After this group of people surrounded Jiang Chun, they did not say anything and all rushed up. Light attracting technique. Jiang Chun opened his mouth slightly and whispered. As soon as his voice fell, all the light attribute energy around the treasure pavilion was attracted and gathered crazily towards the place where Jiang Chun was standing. Almost at this moment, the originally bright surroundings suddenly became extremely dark. Even Sun Sheng, who was fighting with Bai Xiaoyan, was a little surprised. Distracted? While he was in a daze, Bai Xiaoyan slashed at his waist with the long sword in her hand. Kacha! The long sword slashed hard on his armor. Sun Sheng, who had not recovered from his injury, was obviously unable to block such a powerful attack from Bai Xiaoyan. He was hit hard and fell to the side. Puff! Sun Sheng spat out a mouthful of blood. His old injury relapsed and his face turned pale. It seems that the immortal technique left behind by the immortal emperor is really not a joke. Bai Xiaoyan could not help but sigh as she looked at the darkness around her. Chapter 16:20. How is this possible? Looking at the darkness around him, Sun Sheng could not believe that this was an immortal skill that a cultivator at the second level of the heaven immortal realm could perform. However, just as he was in shock, the thought in his mind made him completely gloomy. Jiang Chun had caused their Yin-Yang sect to lose several disciples previously. When they entered the treasure vault later on, more than 10 disciples were killed. Now, their sect had lost face in the north and south region. If they allowed Jiang Chun to enter today, the entire immortal realm would look down on them. Almost all of the sects and schools were looking towards where Jiang Chun was, but since it was too dark, they couldn't see anything clearly. At this moment, Jiang Chun, who had gathered the light attribute energy around him, was holding a flawless white sword in his hand. Although it was called a sword, it was not materialized at all. It was completely condensed from light and looked more like a lightsaber. Golden Immortal, Heaven Immortal. Today, I'll use all of you to test the immortal skill that the immortal emperor left behind. Jiang Chun glanced at the Yin-Yang sect disciples who were standing around him. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure immediately disappeared from the spot. Then, he suddenly appeared behind one of them. Swish! The lightsaber in his hand slashed at his waist without hesitation. That person did not even know what had happened. He could not even see where Jiang Chun was. He only felt a pain in his body, and then his vitality was rapidly draining away. It was only when the smell of blood spread that the others realized what had happened. However, the light attribute energy around them had long been absorbed by Jiang Chun. Even though the two of them were only 3 to 4 meters apart, they could not see each other at all. They could only roughly guess where Jiang Chun was from the aura fluctuations coming from Jiang Chun's body and the smell of blood. Kill him. Soon, the disciple with the highest cultivation base among these people, who was at the 6th level of the heaven immortal realm, shouted loudly. He knew that if this continued, not only would they not be able to hurt Jiang Chun, but they would also be killed one by one. Full moon slash. His voice reached Jiang Chun's ears. Jiang Chun shouted in a low voice. All the light that had gathered in his hand suddenly flourished, and then he swung the light sword in his hand with all his might. A dazzling light spread out with Jiang Chun as the center. It was so fast that these practitioners, who were golden immortals and celestial immortals, did not even have a chance to dodge it. When they thought about dodging or using immortal methods to confront Jiang Chun head-on, the light had already flashed past their bodies. The light dissipated. The dozen or so disciples of the yin-yang sect stood where they were, their eyes widened in disbelief. Jiang Chun exhaled softly. The light sword in his hand slowly disappeared. The absorbed light attribute energy dispersed, and the originally dark surroundings lit up once again. Plop! The 10-odd people all fell onto the ground. Even before they died, they still couldn't figure out how Jiang Chun could exert such a powerful immortal method when he was only in the second layer of the celestial immortal realm. They didn't even have the power to fight back. Little bastard! After the light returned, Sun Sheng also saw the situation in front of the treasure pavilion. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, gritted his teeth, and roared, but he couldn't do anything to Jiang Chun because of the Pact of Two Realms and the 1,000-Year Pact. What did you say? At this moment, Bai Xiaoyan rushed to his side, grabbed his collar with one hand, lifted him up, and asked in a deep voice, "How dare you kill me in front of the sects of the North and East regions?" Sun Sheng's face was distorted. He never thought that he would be defeated by a kid who was only a second-level heaven immortal after defeating the people of the Qin sect. And now, he had fallen to such a state in front of so many sections. Although he was still alive, he was already dead. Therefore, he wasn't afraid of what Bai Xiaoyan would do to him at all. Instead, he tried his best to vent the anger in his heart. "So what if I kill you? Do they dare to go against the Tianji Pavilion?" Hearing this, Bai Xiaoyan sneered directly. "Dog, you'd better not let me leave here alive. Otherwise, as long as I'm alive, you won't have a good life. Don't think that the masters of the Kunlun sect can protect you." Sun Sheng stared at Bai Xiaoyan gloomily. "Are you threatening me?" Bai Xiaoyan frowned. "Do you think?" Sun Sheng was just about to speak. He felt that Bai Xiaoyan's palm immediately exerted strength. In his injured state, he couldn't break free at all. Seeing that he was about to be crushed to death by the person in front of him, a crazy idea suddenly popped up in Sun Sheng's mind. The immortal power in his body, which was originally weak, suddenly swelled up, and even his body swelled up. "Since I can't leave here, then you can stay here with me." Sun Sheng grinned and laughed loudly. His teeth were dripping with blood, making him look particularly horrifying. Even his face had become a little twisted. "Little junior brother, quickly take Feng Yu away from here. This lunatic wants to self-destruct." Bai Xiaoyan let go of him right away. She shouted loudly as she flew towards Jiang Chun. Although Sun Sheng was heavily injured, he was still a real immortal king. He could still resist the self-explosion of an immortal king, but Jiang Chun, who was in the second layer of the celestial immortal realm, couldn't bear such a strong impact. At this time, Jiang Chun was still thinking about the power of the light attraction technique. When he heard Bai Xiaoyan's words, he was stunned for a moment. Without thinking too much, he grabbed Bai Fengyu's hand and frantically retreated. However, not only was Sun Sheng self-destructing, but he also used his wildly fluctuating immortal power as the starting point to burst out a very powerful suction force. This suction force caused the disciples of the southern and northern regions, who were slightly weaker, to uncontrollably move closer to him. As for the slightly stronger immortal monarch or immortal king level experts, they mobilized all their immortal power to build an immortal power barrier, trying to block the fluctuations caused by Sun Sheng's self-destruction. "Oh no!" Bai Xiaoyan sighed inwardly. He could ignore this suction force and directly leave, escaping the range of Sun Sheng's self-destruction. However, Jiang Chun and Bai Fengyu's strength were too low, so there was no way for them to escape. At this critical moment, Bai Xiaoyan dispelled the idea of escaping. Instead, he rushed towards Jiang Chun and blocked in front of the two. He condensed all the immortal power in his body and spread out a barrier that completely enveloped the three of them. He also protected Jiang Chun and Bai Fengyu behind him. "Eldest senior brother." Jiang Chen's gaze was complicated. "You are the pavilion master of our Heaven's Secret Pavilion, and also our little junior brother. Now that master is not here, I naturally have to protect your safety. Bai Xiaoyan smiled gently. He knew that at such a close distance, even with his cultivation, he couldn't guarantee that he would survive the self-destruction of an immortal king. However, he wouldn't put Jiang Qun to death. Chapter 16:21. Sun Sheng's body had swelled to the extreme. When he saw Jiang Qun and the other two standing not far from him, the smile on his twisted face became even more rampant. A moment later, an extremely powerful wave of energy quickly spread out from his body. The tiles under his feet cracked inch by inch, and even the ground was hit by a deep pit more than 10 meters deep. The first to be hit were the corpses of his sect's disciples killed by Jiang Qun. When the fluctuations spread out, the corpses of this group of people were almost instantly destroyed into ashes. Immortal technique, Mao Sun descends. All of a sudden, an aged voice sounded. Immediately after, hundreds of giant trees broke out of the ground and grew at a very fast speed. In almost the blink of an eye, the originally empty area had turned into a dense forest. When these trees were more than 10 meters tall, all the leaves covered the sky tightly, faintly forming a wood attribute boundary. In the place where Jiang Qun and the other two were, a 1,000-year-old ancient tree grew, blocking the three of them behind. Whoosh! The fluctuation caused by Sun Sheng's self-explosion swept out. When it reached Bai Xiaoyan, it was blocked by hundreds of trees. The remaining fluctuation only made Bai Xiaoyan's face turn pale and her figure stagger a few times. It didn't cause any serious injuries at all. Old Shu of the wood boundary, wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth, Bai Xiaoyan looked at the surrounding forest and suddenly thought of that old man. Will he save us? Jiang Qun asked in surprise. Not only to protect you, I'm also protecting the immortal emperor's tomb. The impact of an immortal king's self-explosion is enough to destroy this place into ruins. A voice came from the giant tree behind Bai Xiaoyan. The fluctuation lasted for nearly 10 minutes before it slowly dissipated. Those sects of the northern and southern regions, even with Old Shu's protection, suffered a lot of impact. Some of the weaker ones were seriously injured. When the fluctuation completely disappeared, hundreds of giant trees returned to the ground. Thank you for your help, Senior. After dispersing the barrier, Jiang Qun and Bai Xiaoyan both stood upright, cupped their hands respectfully to Old Shu, and thanked him in a deep voice. If it wasn't for his help, Jiang Qun and Bai Fengyu would definitely have suffered heavy injuries, and Bai Xiaoyan, who was protecting them, would also have suffered from the explosion and ended up in a miserable state. It doesn't matter. You took away the immortal method in the light and fire barrier. We won't let you die in the immortal emperor's tomb. Old Shu waved his hand and smiled kindly. After saying this, Old Shu's figure dissipated. In the entire open space, the place where Sun Sheng stood before was already in a mess. The surrounding stone bricks were all lifted up, and a deep pit of more than 10 meters appeared on the ground. But because of Old Shu's help, Sun Sheng's self-explosion did not cause any more serious consequences. However, all the people from the various sects still had lingering fears. They didn't dare to imagine what would have happened to them if those trees hadn't suddenly appeared and absorbed the shockwaves from Sun Sheng's self-destruction. Looking at these people, Jiang Qun didn't hesitate. Now that Sun Sheng was gone, no one dared to stop him from entering the treasure pavilion. Pushing open the door, Jiang Qun quickly walked in with Bai Xiaoyan and Bai Fengyu and closed the door. One could see that in the 20 days that Jiang Qun was in seclusion, the sects from the northern and southern domain came in one after another. There were dozens of corpses on the first and second floor. There were also 2 people lying on the stairs leading to the 3rd floor. It seemed that they wanted to force their way in, but were blocked by the barrier and shot to death by the mechanism. Eldest senior brother, Fengyu, wait here for a moment. I'll go up and take a look. Standing at the bottom of the stairs, Jiang Qun looked up. After saying this, he directly rushed into the barrier. And because Bai Xiaoyan and Bai Fengyu didn't cultivate the immortal emperor's immortal method, they were still unable to enter the barrier. Going up the stairs, Jiang Qun reached the 3rd floor. Compared to the 2 wooden shelves below that were filled with books, scrolls, and wooden boxes. There was only a wooden table in the middle with a very tattered box on it. Other than that, there was nothing else. Jiangchen walked to the front of the table and reached out to open it. Lying inside was a very simple-looking scroll. Would attribute immortal method, beginning of all beginnings? Opening the scroll and seeing the introduction, Jiangchen was a little surprised. According to the scroll, only Tianji sect disciples with would attribute immortal energy were qualified to cultivate it. They could quickly cultivate new trees and then absorb nutrients from the trees to quickly recover their immortal energy. Not bad. Zhang Chun smacked his lips and kept it in his storage ring. 4th floor, 5th floor, 6th floor. In these 3 floors, there were 2 immortal methods. Fire attribute immortal spells, metal attribute immortal spells, water attribute immortal spells, and earth attribute immortal spells. But in the 6th floor, Jiangchen saw 2 rare immortal methods. Light attribute immortal method, blade of imperial light. Darkness attribute immortal method, dark sky ripple barrier. Seeing these 2 immortal methods, Jiangchen was a little surprised. The light attribute is understandable. Although it is rare, it will still be seen. But the dark attribute, after ascending to the immortal world, Jiangchen only felt it from the Black God sect and the outer domain Black sect master. Although there will be other sects in the immortal world with this attribute energy, Jiangchen was still a little surprised to see it in the treasure pavilion of the immortal emperor. After thinking for a while, Jiangchen directly put them all away. These 7 immortal methods, any one of them will cause a rush outside, and he now cultivates the immortal emperor's light absorption technique. Since he is qualified to come here, he naturally has to take away all that he can see. Clapping his hands, Jiangchen walked to the 7th floor with satisfaction. According to Little Ape, on the 7th floor of the treasure pavilion, there is the real treasure of the immortal emperor. Even if it can't be compared with the real treasure in the immortal emperor's tomb, it is certainly not an ordinary product. At least it is a higher grade than these 7 immortal methods. Do it. Jiangchen went up the stairs to the 7th floor. In the eye, there is a suspended in the air, showing a colorful scroll. Fusion method? Jiangchen leaned forward and looked at the words on the scroll. He reached out to take it. Hiss. But when he reached out and was about to touch the scroll, he felt a very hot aura, as if his hand was pressed on fire. After feeling the pain, Jiangchen immediately withdrew his hand. An invisible wave spread. Jiangchen realized that there is a barrier around the scroll, and it is impossible to take it directly. After staring at the scroll for a while, Jiangchen turned around and went down the stairs. He thought that to get this scroll, like the treasures in the tomb, must first be recognized by the immortal emperor. Chapter 16:22. How was it? Seeing Jiangchen coming down the stairs, Bai Xiaoyan hurried over and asked, I got a few mediocre immortal skills. I didn't go to the top floor. Jiangchen shook his head and said casually. He didn't dare to tell Bai Xiaoyan about these immortal skills. Otherwise, they would be sold before he could read them. How can there be such a stingy, immortal emperor? He doesn't put anything good in the treasure pavilion. Bai Xiaoyan didn't doubt Jiangchen. Instead, she complained about the immortal emperor. Maybe it's a sect as poor as our divine secret pavilion. Jiangchen waved his hand and pushed open the door of the treasure pavilion. Now, apart from the 1st floor and the 7th floor, everything was in his hands. What he needed to do was to go to the back of the tomb and find the stone tablet left by the immortal emperor. Then he would be able to get the fusion method of the 7th floor and the real secret treasure in the tomb. The door of the treasure pavilion was pushed open. Jiangchen saw many people standing there. I heard that Sun Sheng of the Yin Yang sect self-destructed in order to kill you. Are you hurt? Seeing Jiangchen come out, the first elder hurriedly asked. I'm lucky. Jiangchen cupped his hands and replied. That's good. You disappeared for more than 20 days. If I hadn't asked the immortal king beside you and learned that you were practicing in seclusion, I would have thought that you had met with an accident. However, the tomb of the immortal emperor will be closed in less than 3 days. The entire tomb has been almost emptied by those sects. Only the treasure pavilion and the last bounded domain are left. No one can enter. As the first elder spoke, He wondered why Jiang Chun came out of the treasure pavilion unscathed. During these 20 days, he also knew that the sects of the northern and southern regions had been trying to enter the tomb. However, no matter how many people entered, they would all die. Even if they escaped, they would be injured. However, Jiang Chun went in twice in a row and did not trigger any mechanism at all. But when he thought about it, this proved that offending Xian Jun for Jiang Chen's sake was the correct decision. This kid was able to suddenly advance from the third level of the true immortal realm to the second level of the heavenly immortal realm in 20 days of time. Moreover, this kid was even able to enter the treasure storage pavilion 2 or 3 times without being harmed in the slightest. There was surely a reason that he didn't know. Great Elder, does your Thousand Harmonies sect want to take a look inside the barrier? Zhangchen thought for a moment and asked. I don't think we have a chance. We can't even enter the treasure pavilion, let alone other treasures. The Great Elder shook his head helplessly. While you were in seclusion, I asked the disciples of the sect to search around the tomb. They found quite a few good things, so this trip was not in vain. I want to try my luck. Thinking of the fusion method, Jiang Chun felt an itch in his heart. Do you need me to send someone to protect you? You've offended quite a few sects now, the Great Elder said worriedly. No need. With the White Immortal King protecting me, there won't be a problem. Jiang Chun waved his hand and refused. After exchanging a few words with the Great Elder, Jiang Chun led the two of them to the back of the tomb. As for the small sects of the northern and southern regions, they all stayed where they were and did not dare to move. They had already lost many disciples when they entered the treasure storage pavilion earlier. Even if they knew that there were better things in the barrier behind, they did not dare to do anything. After bypassing the treasure storage pavilion and walking for a short distance, Jiang Chun sensed that there was a barrier not far in front of him. Perhaps it was because he had cultivated the immortal technique left behind by the immortal emperor, or perhaps it was because his cultivation had improved a little, but Jiang Chun clearly felt that he seemed to have the entire immortal emperor's tomb in his hands. Where were the traps, and where were the barriers? He didn't need to get close to them to know them. Why did you stop? Seeing Jiang Chun suddenly stop in place, Bai Xiaoyan asked. The barrier is in front. Great senior brother, you and Feng Yu wait here for a moment. I'll go in and see the situation. If I don't come out within 3 days, you can leave on your own. Don't worry about me. Jiang Chun took a deep breath and stretched out his hand to press in front of him. As Jiang Chun's hand pressed on the barrier spread out like ripples in the air. Immediately afterward, the scene in front of him changed dramatically. The rows of houses that were originally not far away disappeared, and what appeared in front of them was a mess. They were all dilapidated houses, and there were corpses everywhere. There were even flames on the ground that had not yet burned out. The moment the enchantment dissipated, the smell of blood permeated the air. Jiang Chun, you can't go in? Even with Bai Xiaoyan's experience and knowledge, she had never seen such a situation. At the back of the tomb, the previous calm and vicissitudes were all hidden by the barrier. Who would have thought that there would be such a scene inside the barrier? Bai Xiaoyan was worried that there would be danger inside. Even if Jiang Chen's cultivation had improved, he was only in the second layer of the celestial immortal realm. Once he faced danger and lost her protection, his life would definitely be threatened. Little Ape told me that this is the test of the immortal emperor, and I have already obtained 2 immortal techniques in a row. Even Old Shu of the Wood Barrier helped me, so there should be no problem. Jiang Chun was also a little surprised, but after calming down, he smiled and said to Bai Xiaoyan, Do you really want to go in? Bai Xiaoyan frowned. The tragic situation inside made even her not dare to step in easily. Well, it's not easy to get here. I want to see what treasures the immortal emperor left behind. Jiang Chun nodded firmly. What he didn't tell Bai Xiaoyan was, when he dispersed the barrier, he clearly felt that something inside seemed to be calling out to him. This came from the deepest part of his soul, making Jiang Chun eager to figure out what was going on. Think about it again. Bai Xiaoyan was still worried. If her master was here now, he would definitely let Jiang Chun go out. Once there was any danger, her master would be able to bring Jiang Chun out in the shortest time possible. But now that her master had gone to an unknown area, with his strength, it was not enough to protect Jiang Chun's safety. He couldn't even enter the barrier in front of him. "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." Jiang Chun smiled faintly. This sentence was not only for Bai Xiaoyan, but also for himself. "Master, why don't I go in with you?" Bai Fengyu pulled Jiang Chen's sleeve. "You and eldest senior brother are together. With him, he can protect your safety." Jiang Chen shook his head. He didn't know what he would encounter when he went in, so it was even more impossible for him to bring Bai Fengyu with him. "Then remember to come out immediately when you encounter danger. Don't stay inside for too long." Seeing Jiang Chen's firm attitude, Bai Xiaoyan knew that she couldn't stop him, so she no longer insisted. Chapter 16:23. And after leaving this sentence, Jiang Chun stepped into the spirit array. The moment Jiang Chen's figure entered, the dissipated spirit array instantly recovered. The slaughter, blood, and mess that appeared in front of them instantly dissipated and was replaced by the illusion created by the spirit array. Rows of simple and unadorned houses looked as if nothing had happened. "Let's wait here." Without waiting for Bai Xiaoyan to speak, Bai Fengyu spoke first. She wanted to stay here and wait for Jiang Chen to come out. "You go and rest. I will guard here." Bai Xiaoyan shook her head. "I won't." Bai Fengyu firmly denied. "You haven't rested for 20 days. Even if Jiang Chen encounters any danger, you won't be able to help. It's better for you to rest and recharge your energy. That way, you might be able to help." Bai Xiaoyan sighed. He couldn't understand. This girl was obviously dead set on Jiang Chen. How did she become his disciple and not his wife? Bai Fengyu was silent. "I will send you to the Grand Elder of the Thousand Harmonies sect. You follow them. I will guard here." Bai Xiaoyan continued. "I promise you that I will definitely bring Jiang Chen out safely. Unless I die here with him." Bai Fengyu didn't continue to insist. She gently nodded and reluctantly looked up. Although in front of her was an illusion of the spirit array, she knew that Jiang Chen wasn't far from her. Inside the spirit array, Jiang Chen was already inside. Looking around, all he saw was devastation. There were countless corpses under his feet. It looked as if they had just died. The smell of blood was very strong. Every step he took forward was stepping in blood. "Who?" Jiang Chen took a deep breath. Even if he had seen great winds and waves, he still couldn't help but feel a little surprised when he saw such a situation. The area inside the spirit array was very big. He couldn't see the end of it. At the end of his line of sight, there was even fog rising, blocking his line of sight. He couldn't see what was going on inside. Following his intuition, Jiang Chun strode forward. During the journey, in order to avoid any possible dangers, Jiang Chun urged the immortal energy in his body, and the light sword gradually appeared in his hand. However, because the entire area was dark, the light attribute energy gathered was not very rich. Although the light sword was in his hand, it was still somewhat illusory. After walking for an unknown amount of time, Jiang Chun roughly understood where he was. Furthermore, a thought also appeared in his mind. That is, this place is not illusory at all, but it really exists. It is just sealed by the enchantment, and here is the real Qinji Zone. The illusion created by the enchantment outside is the real appearance of Qinji Zone before this incident. The rows of houses in the surroundings, the dead disciples in front of the houses, and the corpses of the intruders in black were the strongest evidence to prove Jiang Chen's theory. In this dim space, Jiang Chen stepped into the fog. When he entered, Jiang Chen discovered that this was not a fog at all, but the residual immortal energy after the battle, which was accumulated over time. In the fog, Jiang Chen vaguely saw a huge stone tablet. Standing in front of the stele, Jiang Chen felt his current strength wasn't enough for him to succeed. Immortal Emperor's recognition. Jiang Chen hesitated for a moment, but still stepped on the stone steps, approaching the stone tablet. When he approached, he had already stretched out his palm, ready to press on it to see if he could get the recognition of the immortal emperor. Pa! After a few steps, Jiang Chen pressed on the stone tablet. Before he had time to think, Jiang Chen felt that his thoughts seemed to be pulled out of his body, accompanied by the rising fog, quickly swept upward. Under this force, Jiang Chen gradually fainted. 2 days passed quietly. Almost all the sects in the southern and northern regions had left here, except for the disciples of the horizontal blade sect and the withered wood sect who were all killed, and only a small number of people from the yin-yang sect who escaped. The other sects did not suffer too much damage. Moreover, these sects more or less benefited from the tomb. Above the tomb, the great elder was standing here. Beside him was the first mountain lord, and the immortal kings from the overseas immortal mountains were standing behind. One more day until the immortal emperor's tomb closes. Jiang Chun and Bai Xiaoyan have not come out yet. I've already sent people in to investigate the situation. Bai Xiaoyan is at the back of the tomb, and Jiang Chun has disappeared. I've asked, but he refused to tell me where Jiang Chun is. The great elder's turbid eyes stared at the immortal emperor's tomb below, and he sighed helplessly. Bai Xiaoyan is an immortal king. She must know what Jiang Chun is doing. Since he's still calm, it means that the problem is not big. Besides, there's still one more day. Let's wait. The first mountain lord looked worried. His words were tough, but the worry in his heart was not much less than the great elder's. If Jiang Chun was really in danger, he did not know how to explain it to Wan Cheng. There's another news. After thinking about it, I still want to tell you. Retracting his gaze, the great elder waved his hand and waited for the people of the Thousand Harmonies sect to retreat more than 10 meters before he spoke. Oh, what is it? The first mountain lord glanced sideways. The sect leaders of 3 sects in the eastern region have disappeared. I suspect that they might join forces to attack Jiang Chun. There are some things that Jiang Chun did not say, and I can't tell you. However, the closer the immortal emperor's tomb closes, the more dangerous it will be. Bai Xiaoyan alone is not enough to protect him. The great elder had been hesitating, but in the end, he could not help but tell the first mountain lord. He could have gathered all of the strong men in the sect here to protect Jiang Chun. However, there were only 3 or 4 immortal kings in the second tier of the immortal king realm apart from him. The strongest ones among them were only immortal kings in the second tier. Moreover, the Thousand Harmonies sect had always been secretive and had never revealed their true strength. Once they revealed it this time, the sects in the eastern region would know how much they were worth. However, it was different if he told the first mountain lord. Jiang Chun was a disciple of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain and the leader of the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance. Just standing here, there were at least 10 immortal kings. This was the best way to protect Jiang Chun. This kid is really a troublemaker. Hearing the great elder's words, the first mountain lord could not help but cover his forehead and sigh softly. It's not that he's causing trouble. He saved a friend before and got into trouble because of that. The great elder did not want the first mountain lord to misunderstand Jiang Chun, so he explained directly. Chapter 16:24. What friend? The first mountain lord was curious. From her point of view, Jiang Chun was either looking for trouble or on the way to it. She had never seen him get into trouble for helping others. It's a VIP from the Ganges Bank. But as for his identity, I don't know. The great elder thought for a while. He did not know much about Wan Cheng. Other than knowing that he was from the Ganges Bank, he did not even know his name. I don't know what this kid is up to. The first mountain lord shook her head. She decided that after returning to the Kunlun Celestial Mountain, she would have a good talk with Jiang Chun. Now that he had offended Xian Jun, if she did not do something about it, who knew who he would offend in the future? Within the enchantment, Jiang Chun floated in the void. He did not know how long it had been before he woke up. When he opened his eyes, Jiang Chun realized that he was floating in the sky. It was dark in front of him, and the sky was scarlet red. It was as though he had arrived at the end of the immortal world. Just as he was about to check his surroundings to determine where he was, a strong gust of immortal energy swept towards him. F***CK. What the hell is this place? Jiang Chun leaped and dodged quickly. When the immortal energy brushed past him, Jiang Chun could clearly feel that the person who released this aura was much stronger than Bai Xianling. If he was just a little slower, he would have lost his life here. Looking in the direction of the immortal energy, Jiang Chun saw 2 figures fighting fiercely at the end of his vision. One was grayish-white, and the other was pure black. Every time these 2 figures clashed, the mountains and rivers would shatter. Jiang Chun's original intention was to leave this place quickly. With such a strong battle, with his current cultivation level of the second heaven immortal realm, he would be reduced to ashes if a gust of wind blew past him. However, before he could take a step forward, Jiang Chun felt as if he had been summoned by something. He subconsciously floated over there. The two of them didn't seem to have noticed Jiang Chun at all, and were still fighting intensely. Their figures were so fast that even Jiang Chun couldn't catch them. He could only see two different colored streams of light streaking across the sky. Every time they collided, an extremely powerful aura would be emitted. Shua! A wave of aura spread out and swept towards Jiang Chun. Jiang Chun didn't have the chance to react. He could only watch as the grayish-white immortal energy wave was about to hit him. Helpless, he closed his eyes and waited for his death. That wave of energy passed through Jiang Chun's body without causing him any harm. What's going on? Jiang Chun was a little surprised. Just as he was puzzled, a figure suddenly fell from the sky. Upon closer inspection, it was the grayish-white figure. That figure kept falling until it finally crashed heavily onto the ground. Jiang Chun lowered his head to take a look. He was surprised to find that the scene below was the Tianji sect. Above, there were not only two strong people fighting, but there were also many people in black who were invading the sect. All the elders and disciples of the Tianji sect were fighting with their lives on the line. With every breath, many people fell to the ground. When the grayish-white figure fell heavily on the ground, Jiang Chun seemed to be pulled by some kind of suction and fell down, stopping on a pavilion. If you look carefully, this pavilion is the treasure pavilion in the tomb of the immortal emperor. Standing on the top, Jiang Chun could clearly see the situation below. The grayish-white figure was actually a middle-aged man wearing a grayish-white robe. He looked about 40 years old. His face was firm and his eyes were sharp. However, at this time, he seemed to be seriously injured. The blood at the corner of his mouth had dried. When he stood up from the pit, his figure was a little staggered. Wouldn't it be the immortal emperor of the Tianji sect? Jiang Chun frowned slightly and looked at him. Boom! Another figure slammed on the ground. The smoke and dust dissipated. It was the man in black who had just fought with the former in midair. His whole body was covered in a black robe. His momentum was very fierce. This appearance was somewhat similar to the black sect master that Jiang Chun had seen before. Dark Heaven King, why did you hurt my Tianji sect? The grayish-white robed middle-aged man endured the discomfort and rushed out of the huge pit. The colorful immortal power around him was a little weak, but he still did not retreat half a step. Hand her over. The man in black held a black disc in his hand. The color of the disc was so deep that Jiang Chun only had to look at it. It seemed that his spiritual awareness would be completely sucked in. Don't think about it. Even if you kill me today, even if the Tianji sect completely disappears from the immortal world, I can't let you see her. Protecting her is my life's mission. The grayish-white robed middle-aged man chuckled. Although he was injured from his face and momentum, he did not feel the slightest tension and discomfort. I will fulfill your dream. First, I will destroy your China sect. Then dig 10,000 feet into the ground and find her. The man in black waved his hand, and densely packed people wearing the same clothes as him rushed into the Tianji sect. The people of China's sect, who had the ability to fight back, were instantly swallowed up by this group of people. For a time, the smell of blood in the entire sect was several times thicker. The blood fog continued to erupt, and even the situation below was somewhat unclear. Tianji sect, listen to the order. Guard the sect. I will live and die with you. When this sentence fell, the colorful immortal power around his body burst into a dazzling light. Even his body was covered in it. The light dissipated, and a slender, colorful, thin sword emerged in his hand. Under the gaze of Jiang Chun, the two men once again fought fiercely. But soon the grayish-white robe, middle-aged man gradually showed signs of defeat. He could only constantly resist the attack of the man in black. After a while, he was seized of the opportunity and took a punch. Pucci! After this blow, the grayish-white robe, middle-aged man could no longer hold on. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, he half knelt on the ground. Fortunately, he was supported by the long sword in his hand. Otherwise, he would have fallen directly to the ground. I will give you one more chance. Hand her over. The man in black waved his hand, and the black disc flew out directly and stopped on the grayish-white robe middle-aged man's head. In your dreams, the grayish-white robe middle-aged man raised his head and sneered. The man in black's expression stiffened, and the disc fell on the grayish-white robe middle-aged man's head. The middle-aged man also raised his head, knowing that in his current state, he was not the opponent of the other party at all. There was no other way but to wait for death. It was a comfort to be buried with the elders and disciples of the sect. Jiang Chen narrowed his eyes. He did not expect that the dignified Tianji sect's sect master, a dignified immortal emperor, would actually use this method to leave the immortal world. Stop! A clear voice sounded. The white sleeve quickly stretched out from a distance and hit the disc, causing it to fly out. The man in black also took 2 steps back before stabilizing his body. Chapter 16:25. The person who came was a woman in a snow-white fairy dress. As soon as this person appeared, the entire world seemed to stop. The hundreds of black-clothed men and the hundreds of people from the China sect all stopped fighting. Even the middle-aged man in the gray robe looked at her. The moment she appeared, Jiang Chun felt his entire body tremble. A sense of familiarity that originated from the depths of his soul emerged. Seeing that exquisite and cold face, Jiang Chun felt that this person was his mother. But how could his mother be related to the immortal king of the China sect? How could she let such a powerful black-clothed man come to search for him? Could it be that his mother did something behind his father's back? Shaking his head, Jiang Chun threw these complicated thoughts out of his mind. Dark Sky Emperor, leave this place immediately. The woman stood in the air and pointed her snow-white finger at the gray-clothed man. Her clear voice came out of her mouth. You really are here. Seeing the woman appear, the black-clothed man's face revealed an evil expression. The woman's pretty face instantly turned cold. Without saying another word, she immediately leaped forward and fought with the black-clothed man. Jiang Chen saw the waves of immortal power pass through his body, but he did not suffer any injuries. He felt more at ease and dared to watch. At the same time, he wanted to confirm if this woman was his mother. Nearly 10 minutes later, the black-clothed man was no match. With a wave of his hand, he led all his subordinates and quickly retreated from the China sect. After this group of people dispersed, the China sect was in a mess. There were only a few people who could stand up. Almost everyone was lying on the ground motionless. Blood flowed along the gullies on the ground. The pungent smell of blood filled the entire space. Even Jiang Chen could not help but frown when he smelled it. Why did you let the entire sect fall into such a state? Because you protected me? After the black-clothed man left, the woman landed on the ground and quickly walked to the middle-aged man in the gray robe. She asked worriedly. Although she was worried, her tone was cold. I promised you before. Now it's not considered breaking my promise. The middle-aged man supported himself with his sword and stood up with difficulty. He looked at the entire sect in front of him that was almost completely wiped out. The 2 or 3 people who managed to stand up were also seriously injured. It seemed that they wouldn't be able to last more than a few incense sticks of time. Now that I've done what I promised you, my sect is destroyed. There's no need for me to continue living in this world. From now on, Emperor Qianji will no longer exist in the immortal world. The middle-aged man laughed bitterly. Before he could finish his sentence, he suddenly stretched out his hand and heavily smacked his own head. Then his eyes became dull, and he fell into a pool of blood. You! The woman's cold expression finally changed. However, she was already dead, and there was no way to revive her. What a pity! A grand immortal emperor actually committed suicide. Jiang Chen couldn't help but shake his head. The woman glanced in Jiang Chen's direction before her figure disappeared. Jiang Chen and her looked at each other. His heart suddenly jumped up. Although the person in front of him was likely to be his mother, he was not 100% sure. If she found out, he would have no power to fight back. Just when Jiang Chen was ready to hide, the woman had already disappeared. After waiting for a while, Jiang Chun jumped down from the top of the pavilion and was ready to go forward to see the situation of the immortal emperor. Before he could take a few steps forward, he was pulled again and his vision became illusory. When Jiang Chun opened his eyes, what he saw in front of him was still the stone tablet. However, now Jiang Chun seemed to understand. What he saw just now should be the disaster that Tianji sect encountered a long time ago. It was because of this matter that the sect with the immortal emperor disappeared from the immortal world. Could it be that this emperor Tianji has something to do with my mother? Thinking of the woman in the snow-white dress, Jiang Chun couldn't help but wonder. However, thinking about it, Jiang Chun still pressed his hand on the stone tablet. In an instant, the dull stone tablet shone with 7 colors. Even the smell of blood in the surroundings was diluted a little. Jiang Chun saw the middle-aged man in the gray-white robe again in the light. Junior Jiang Chun greets Emperor Tianji. Jiang Chun quickly cupped his hands. I didn't expect to meet a junior with 5 attributes of immortal power. However, since you can reach here, I'm afraid your immortal power has more than 5 attributes. Emperor Tianji's shadow floated in front of Jiang Chun. His smile was kind, and his momentum was smooth. Jiang Chun didn't understand what he was talking about. However, in front of the immortal emperor, he didn't dare to say anything. He had to nod and agree. I don't know if you came here by chance or found my sect and wanted to find some treasures here. Since you're here, I have to give you something good. Emperor Tianji said. What is it? Hearing this, Jiang Chun's eyes lit up. This thing. Emperor Tianji stretched out his hand to Jiang Chun. A wooden tablet slowly floated out from his sleeve and floated in front of Jiang Chun. May I ask if this is the treasure of Tianji's sect? Jiang Chun held it in his hand with some excitement. However, when he said this sentence, he was suddenly dumbfounded. On this wooden tablet, there were only a few long, zigzagging lines. There seemed to be a few places marked, but there was no name of the place. If you looked carefully, you could distinguish that it was an icon representing the sect. For me, for Tianji's sect, it is a treasure. However, for you, it is not necessarily. Emperor Tianji smiled warmly. With a wave of his hand, his figure disappeared in front of Jiang Chun. What the hell? Are you tricking me? Looking at the simple wooden tablet in his hand, Jiang Chun was stunned. A pushing force suddenly erupted from the steel, and Jiang Chun felt his body moving back continuously. The steel, the bloody and messy ground, as well as the dilapidated school, became smaller and smaller in front of his eyes. In the end, they became invisible to the naked eye. Pa! After a few breaths, Jiang Chun sat on the ground. Little junior brother, are you okay? Bai Xiaoyun, who was outside the enchantment, saw Jiang Chun come out. She quickly jumped forward and helped him up. I'm fine, just... Jiang Chun held the wooden tablet. He could not help but curse Emperor Tianji thousands of times in his heart. He tried his best to come here, but he did not give him the immortal method or elixir. Instead, he gave him such a broken wooden tablet. What did this mean? Just what? Did you get the recognition of the immortal emperor? Did you get the treasure from the immortal emperor? Bai Xiaoyun glanced at Jiang Chun. Seeing that he did not show any signs of injury, and his spirit was normal, she quickly asked. He gave me such a wooden tablet. He said it was the treasure of Tianji's sect. Jiang Chun handed the wooden tablet to Bai Xiaoyun. Ah? What is this? Bai Xiaoyun was also dumbfounded. I don't know. Taking back the wooden plate, Jiang Chun threw it into his storage ring. Then he sighed and said, forget about it. Now that I've gotten the immortal emperor's approval, I'd better hurry up and go to the treasure house to get the scroll on the top floor. Chapter 16:26. Because it was the last day of the immortal emperor's tomb, almost all the sects had left. Jiang Chun didn't waste any time and immediately rushed to the treasure pavilion with Bai Xiaoyun. However, when he stood below, Jiang Chun suddenly stopped. The scene he saw before, Black Sky Emperor and Emperor Tianji were fighting here, and the person who looked like his mother really looked at him from where he stood. Jiang Chun had a lot of thoughts. That woman really looked like his mother, but Jiang Chun wasn't completely sure. Little junior brother, what's wrong with you? Bai Xiaoyun rushed forward a dozen steps and saw Jiang Chun stop. She immediately came back and asked, "I'm fine. I just suddenly thought of something." Jiang Chen smiled bitterly and shook his head. Entering the treasure pavilion, Jiang Chen rushed up the stairs and reached the top floor. The ancient scroll was still hanging in the middle. Taking a deep breath, Jiang Chen tentatively stretched out his hand, but he didn't touch it back like before, but directly reached in. "I got it." Compared to the wooden tablet given by the immortal emperor, Jiang Chen was more interested in this fusion method. Casually flipping through a few pages, Jiang Chen saw the introduction above. Most of the immortal power of 2 or 3 different attributes were fused together. On the last page, it was clearly marked that if one reached the immortal emperor, no matter how many attributes he had, he could fuse them together. Recalling the colorful halo that appeared around Emperor Qianji's body, and the colorful sword that appeared later, they were all fused together after all the attributes in the body. "It's really good stuff." Jiang Chen grinned and immediately put it in the storage ring. "You got it?" Seeing Jiang Chen come down, Bai Xiaoyan stepped forward. "Yes, I got it." Jiang Chen nodded and said with a smile, "It seems that the biggest winner in the immortal emperor's tomb this time is us. Let's get out of here quickly. The tomb will close in less than 3 hours. Who knows if it will close on time? If it closes early, the two of us will be trapped here for 500 years. Bai Xiaoyan grabbed Jiang Chen and rushed outside. However, before they could get far, a cloud of black fog appeared in front of them. "Be careful." Bai Xiaoyan steadied himself and reminded Jiang Chen in a low voice. As he spoke, he stretched out his arm and pulled Jiang Chen behind him, ready to protect him. "Looks like it's the leader of the Black Sect. Eldest senior brother, what I'm curious about is why this person can attack me with the cultivation of an immortal king. Could it be that he is not bound by the promise of 2 realms and the promise of 1,000 years? The smile on Jiang Chen's face slowly disappeared and was replaced by a serious expression. "I'm also very curious about this." Bai Xiaoyun's gaze was fixed on the black fog that appeared in front of her as she casually replied. After wriggling for a while, the black fog dissipated. A few figures appeared inside. Standing at the front was the leader of the Black Sect in a black robe. On his left was the leader of the Heavenly Gem Mountain, Ku Wanjun, and the 2 quasi-immortal kings who took his pills. On the other side was the leader of the Green Qilin sect, Zhou Yuansheng, and the leader of the Thousand Beast sect, Chou Wanli, who attacked Jiang Chen some time ago. It seems that it was indeed him. After seeing the 2 of them, Bai Xiaoyan somewhat understood. "Eldest senior brother, there are still 3 hours before the immortal emperor's tomb closes. Why don't you leave here first and leave these people to me?" Although Jiang Chen's expression was serious, he was not too worried. Instead, he seemed to have a card up his sleeve. "Stop fooling around. You're just a second-stage heaven immortal. How are you going to face them?" Bai Xiaoyan turned her head and glanced at Jiang Chen. She had no intention of leaving. "Who said I'm going to face them?" Jiang Chen smiled faintly. When he received the recognition of the immortal emperor, although he only received a wooden token, Jiang Chen clearly felt that he understood the entire tomb better. It was as if the entire Tianji sect was completely his. "What do you mean?" Bai Xiaoyan asked in surprise. "Roar!" Without waiting for Jiang Chen's reply, a low roar came from behind. Bai Xiaoyan hurriedly turned her head to look. Not far behind her and Jiang Chen, a giant ape suddenly appeared. Beside it stood a flirtatious woman and an old man in a gray-green robe. "He's the person who trespassed into the barrier of light some time ago." The giant ape's beast eyes stared at the leader of the Black Sect. He could feel the aura of this person, and the 3 people standing beside this person were the people who had appeared in the barrier of light before. "You have guts. You actually dare to violate the rules of the immortal emperor. It seems that I can't let you live today." Hua Fu smiled charmingly, and a very strong aura swept out from her graceful figure. "Even she has the cultivation of the 5th stage of the immortal king realm?" Bai Xiaoyan was shocked. "Eldest senior brother, let's take a step back." Jiang Chen shrugged his shoulders, pulled Bai Xiaoyan's arm, and took 2 steps to the side. He quietly watched everything that was happening in front of him. With these 3 spirit beasts guarding the barrier, unless the leader of the Black Sect killed them all, he wouldn't have the chance to hurt him. I forgot about this. Bai Xiaoyun's whole body relaxed. Compared to the two of them, the face of the leader of the Black Sect was now completely gloomy. He had seized the opportunity to attack Jiangchun when the tomb of the immortal emperor was about to close and all the sects had left this place. However, he didn't expect that Jiangchun had more than one immortal king by his side. He even had spirit beasts with the strength of the 5th or 6th stage of the immortal king realm. If he attacked Jiangchun today, he wouldn't be able to get rid of these 3 people in a short time. Once the fluctuation of immortal power spread out, the first elder of the Qinna sect would definitely come. At that time, not to mention killing Jiangchun, he was afraid that he would be besieged by these people. Little bastard! The leader of the Black Sect clenched his fists. Leave your life! The giant ape roared angrily and jumped toward him. The leader of the Black Sect secretly made a few seals with his hands hidden under his sleeves. Ku Wanjun and the other 2 puppets beside him were guided and immediately jumped forward to meet the enemy and fight with the giant ape. After glancing at Jiangchun, he was ready to leave here. Sneaky thing, since you've come to the Qinji sect, don't think about going out again. Huafu didn't give him a chance to leave. Her beautiful figure turned into a flaming meteor and rushed forward. You're just a spirit beast raised by the Qinji emperor. How dare you be so rampant in front of me? The leader of the Black Sect cursed in a low voice. He quickly dodged backward and waved his hand. A black fog rushed out of his sleeve and blocked Huafu. I'll go up and help. Seeing this situation, Bai Xiaoyun couldn't sit still. She didn't know if the strength of Huafu and the giant ape could keep the leader of the Black Sect here, but now was the best time to get rid of him. Naturally, she couldn't give up. Chapter 16:27. However, just as Bai Xiaoyun rushed up, the figure of the Black Sect's sect master had already disappeared. Bai Xiaoyun didn't hesitate. She immediately turned around and helped the giant ape deal with the 5 people. About 10 minutes later, Huafu rushed out of the black fog. The 5 people were also killed by the giant ape and by Xiaoyun. This person is too strange. If I wasn't vigilant, I would have been injured by the thing in the black fog. Huafu was still a little scared when she recalled the situation just now. She originally thought that it was just a black fog to confuse her, so she didn't take it to heart. She was prepared to pass through and stop the Black Sect's sect master from leaving. However, when she came in contact with the black fog, she realized that it wasn't just a simple black fog. There were many soul bodies in the black fog. Just dealing with these soul bodies took her a lot of time. Who is this person? The giant ape's body kept shrinking. Thousand Harmony Sect's great elder said that this person might be the sect master of the Outer Domain's Black Sect. I killed his disciple in front of a mortal ancient city. I didn't expect him to chase after me. Jiangchun said helplessly. The Outer Domain? We don't know much about the Outer Domain, and we've never heard of this Black Sect. Little Ape and Huafu looked at each other and shook their heads. It's good enough to get rid of them. Jiangchun looked at the corpses of Ku Wanjun and the others lying on the ground and said indifferently. However, he was a little worried. If this person continued to attack him, there would be a time when he was alone. At that time, it wouldn't be easy to escape. The tomb will close in a while. Let's go out first. With us here, you don't have to worry about your safety. Little Ape put his hand on Jiangchun's shoulder. Jiangchun looked at him sideways. Didn't you complete the Immortal Emperor's mission and regain your freedom? Why are you still following me? Cough, cough. When you left the barrier, I had a discussion with Huafu. We've been locked in the Immortal Emperor's tomb for thousands of years. We're not familiar with the current immortal world. So instead of leaving alone, we'd rather follow you. This way, we can protect you and familiarize ourselves with the immortal world. As for where to go in the future, we'll talk about it later. Little Ape smiled bashfully. All right, but I can't afford to feed you. Jiangchun was naturally happy to agree to this request, but at the thought of Little Ape eating the thighs of 3 to 4 spirit beasts in one meal in the Barrier of Light, he couldn't possibly go deep into the mountains to hunt for spirit beasts every day just to fill his stomach, right? That's because I've been dormant for too long, so I ate a little more. Ape scratched his head awkwardly and said embarrassedly. There was no trace of the ferocious look he had, when he was facing the Black Sect Master. What about me? Do you care if I eat or not? Fire Lotus floated in front of Jiangchen. Who cares? Who cares? Jiangchen did not dare to look at her again. He was afraid that as long as he looked at her, he would be directly captured by this coquettish woman. Let's go, let's go. I've been in this tomb for thousands of years. I've long wanted to see the scenery of the outside world. I shouldn't have agreed to the immortal emperor's words back then. I thought that I would be able to meet a cultivator of the 5 attributes very soon. Who would have thought that I would wait for so long? Fire Lotus stretched out her slender finger and gently flicked it. The fiery red dress on her body instantly turned into a pure white and simple long dress, but it still couldn't hide her enchanting and charming temperament. Instead, it gave off an even more intoxicating feeling. Old Shu, aren't you going out with us? Jiangchen looked at the old man standing not far away and asked in a deep voice. I haven't met a junior who can pass the test of the barrier of wood, so I won't go out. Old Shu shook his head and smiled. Old mister, I can take away the wood attraction technique in your barrier, and you can leave here like Sister Fire Lotus. Jiangchen thought for a while and said, Forget it. I'm quite comfortable here, and I don't want to come into contact with the outside world. Old Shu refused again. Jiangchen nodded and didn't say anything else. Outside the immortal emperor's tomb, the great elder and the first mountain lord couldn't sit still anymore. The sky was about to turn completely dark, and there was only half an hour left before the immortal emperor's tomb closed. However, they still didn't get any news from inside. Even 3 hours ago, the disciples of the Qian he sect went in again, but they still found Bai Xiaoyun sitting there motionless. She still didn't tell them anything about Jiangchen's whereabouts. The great elder didn't dare to go in and search with great fanfare. If Jiangchen was cultivating or doing something important, the consequences would be unimaginable. What is this brat doing inside? The first mountain lord's beautiful eyes stared and kept looking inside. Just as everyone was staring at the immortal emperor's tomb, a black fog floated out from the corner of the tomb and quickly dissipated into the nearby forest. The great elder felt that something was wrong and wanted to look in that direction, but he didn't see anything. Time passed minute by minute, and there were less than 10 minutes left. The first mountain lord couldn't take it anymore. If Jiangchen was really trapped inside, she didn't know how to explain it to Wancheng. Just as she was about to go in, a few figures suddenly rushed out from inside. Great Elder, First Mountain Lord. Seeing the 2 people standing in front of him, Jiangchen cupped his hands at them and said, Something happened, and I was delayed for a while. Sorry to have made you worry. What happened? Tell me about it. Before the Great Elder could say anything, the First Mountain Lord quickly stepped forward and reached out to twist Jiangchen's ear. She gritted her teeth and asked, Aya, it's nothing, it's nothing. Feeling the pain, Jiangchen quickly patted her arm and begged for mercy. Brat, you really make me worry. What if you're trapped inside for 500 years? How am I going to explain it to your father? The First Mountain Lord let go of her hand and whispered into Jiangchen's ear. It's nothing. I know what I'm doing. Jiangchen lowered his head and smiled foolishly. Who are these 2? Seeing Ape and Huafu, who were strangers to him, standing behind Jiangchen, the first elder asked out of curiosity. He remembered Jiangchen had only brought Bai Xiaoyan and Bai Fengyu in. Bai Xiaoyan was standing beside him. Bai Fengyu had come out the day before. The first elder had sent Bai Fengyu back to the school to rest. Oh yes, let me introduce you. These 2 are friends I just made. This is Jiang Yuan, and this is Huafu. Jiangchen thought for a while and said directly, it would be more normal to add surnames. Otherwise, he really couldn't say the name Little Ape. It's good that you're out. The First Mountain Lord and I were just about to go in and search for you. The Great Elder laughed in a hoarse voice. Chapter 16:28. As they spoke, the immortal emperor's tomb slowly sank and disappeared in front of everyone. I was counting the time. Jiangchen chuckled. Oh right, before you came out, Grand Elder told me that you got into a lot of trouble because you helped a VIP of the Eternal Riverbank. How come I don't remember you having such a good friend? The First Mountain Lord smiled as she walked to Jiangchen's side. Hearing this, Jiangchen's expression became a little strange. Could it be? Seeing Jiang Chen's expression, the first mountain lord suddenly remembered that when Jiang Chen had just returned to the Kunlun Immortal Mountain, he had looked for her for something, and I can't do anything about it. Jiang Chen shrugged and said helplessly, "Don't worry, I'll get justice for you." "Where is he now?" The first mountain lord patted Jiang Chen's shoulder. She wanted to make things clear to Wan Cheng. He could mess around, but he couldn't implicate Jiang Chen. "He's resting in the Thousand Harmonies sect," Jiang Chen said honestly. He knew that he couldn't control Wan Cheng. In the immortal world, other than his mother, only this woman could help him vent his anger. "Grand Elder, lead the way." The first mountain lord turned her head valiantly. "Okay." Although the Grand Elder didn't know what Jiang Chen and the first mountain lord were talking about, he still nodded. The first mountain lord led all the immortal kings of the immortal mountains in front. The Grand Elder waved his hand, and two protectors hurried to lead the way. Watching the crowd leaving, the Grand Elder walked up to Jiang Chen out of curiosity. He didn't care about Bai Xiaoyan and the other two who were following him. He asked, "My young friend Jiang Chen, I invited the first mountain lord to have a chat in the school before you left, but she turned me down. Why did she take the initiative to go there after you talked to her?" There's a show to watch." Jiang Chen couldn't help but laugh. He seemed to have seen the first mountain lord grabbing Wan Cheng's ear. "What do you mean?" The Great Elder was confused. He had no idea what Jiang Chen was talking about. "It's nothing. You'll know when we return to the sect." Jiang Chen did not know how to explain. After all, Wan Cheng's identity was too special. Perhaps only he and the first mountain lord knew that he was not in Kunlun Celestial Mountain. The group hurriedly returned to the Thousand Harmonies sect. The moment they entered the sect, the first mountain chieftain did not wait for the other elders to come out to greet them. The first mountain chieftain began to search the rooms one by one. Some of the disciples who were resting inside were shocked. They thought that a woman had entered the sect. "Great Elder, who is this?" The few elders first cupped their fists at Su Qian, then nodded at Jiang Chen. Only then did they point at the first mountain lord who had gone deep into the sect to search. "This is the first mountain lord of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. Let her do whatever she wants. Arrange for the disciples to go back and rest. Also, count all the things we brought back from the Immortal Emperor's tomb." The Great Elder waved his hand and immediately arranged for 2 guest rooms. "Let little friend Jiang Chen's friends rest here." "Understood." The few elders cupped their fists again and quickly left. The disciples behind the Great Elder scattered in all directions, and the crowded entrance of the sect once again became spacious and empty. "Great Elder, I'll go and see Feng Yu." Jiang Chen was a little worried about Bai Feng Yu's situation. After his seclusion ended, he could clearly see that the girl's eyes were bloodshot. During this trip to the Immortal Emperor's tomb, the girl must have been worried about him. It was just that she was not in the mood to talk about it. "I'll let the sect arrange for her to rest next to your guest room," the Great Elder said in a deep voice. Jiang Chen glanced at Bai Xiaoyan and immediately ran over. "White Immortal King, and these 2 Immortal Kings, let's go in and have some tea." Looking at Jiang Chen's back, the Great Elder said with a smile, "Our Thousand Harmonies sect has a tea garden behind it. It has the freshest tea leaves in the entire eastern region. Ordinary sects wouldn't have the chance to taste it." "Please." Bai Xiaoyan extended her hand and said. Walking to the guest room, Jiang Chen took a deep breath before pushing the door and entering. In the room, Bai Xiaoyan was lying on the bed resting. It could be seen that she was very tired. There were 2 female disciples of the Thousand Harmonies sect sitting by the side to take care of her. "You 2 go out first." Jiang Chen made a shushing gesture to them and said softly, The 2 female disciples revealed an ambiguous expression. They had learned that Bai Fengyu was a very important friend of Jiang Chen's when they had received the order from the school to take care of her. Now, Jiang Chen had come here alone and asked them to leave. It was easy to imagine what would happen after the door was closed. After the 2 went out, they didn't immediately leave. Instead, they leaned against the door, wanting to hear what was going on inside. Jiang Chen quietly sat by the bed and looked at the side of Bai Fengyu's face. He didn't disturb her. After an unknown amount of time, Bai Fengyu suddenly coughed twice. Master, you're out. Turning around, by phone you didn't see the female disciples of the Thousand Harmonies sect, but the person she saw in her dreams even when she was asleep. She directly sat up from the bed. And I just came out, so I came to see you. Jiang Chen gently smiled. When I opened my eyes, I wanted to immediately return to the immortal emperor's tomb to help you. Now it seems that I delayed it. By phone you felt somewhat guilty. What nonsense are you saying? I'm already very touched that you were able to come here from the heavenly mystery pavilion. Jiang Chen felt as if the softest part of his heart was struck. Thus, he subconsciously stretched out his hand and touched Bai Fengyu's smooth hair. Master, Bai Fengyu's body trembled. Even her eyes were filled with tears. Cough, cough. I see that you haven't rested well. Why don't you lie down and rest for a while? I still have some matters to deal with. If you need help, the Thousand Harmonies sect sent 2 female disciples to take care of you. You can just instruct them. Jiang Chen suddenly realized that he had gone overboard. He awkwardly coughed twice and immediately stood up. He retreated to the door and prepared to leave. When he opened the door, the 2 female disciples who were leaning against the door and eavesdropping directly entered. We just came over and wanted to ask if you needed anything. The female disciples were also very embarrassed. They were waiting to hear if there would be any sounds coming from inside. Who would have thought that the door would suddenly open? Ask her. Jiang Chen pointed at Bai Fengyu before he left quickly. Seeing Jiang Chen's flustered appearance, Bai Fengyu couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. She could clearly feel that Jiang Chen was different from usual. The expression he had when looking at her was completely different from a master looking at his disciple. After all, the emotions in his eyes couldn't be hidden. Chapter 16:29. After leaving the room, Jiang Chen felt a little more relaxed. He rushed to the main hall of the Qinna sect. The Grand Elder was drinking tea with Bai Shaoyin and the others. When they saw Jiang Chen enter, everyone stopped talking and looked at Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen, come with me. The first mountain lord hurriedly came out of the hall and pulled Jiang Chen to the side. What's wrong? Jiang Chen was shocked. He thought that the Grand Elder said something about him and wanted to cause trouble for him. Your father disappeared from the Qinna sect. The first mountain lord's expression was very bad. Jiang Chen was a little surprised. I just searched all the guest rooms in the sect. The people of the Qinna sect also searched. Just now, a disciple reported that your father left here yesterday. The first mountain lord said with a headache. The first mountain lord held his forehead and said with a slight headache, why don't we just bring him back to the Kunlun Immortal Mountain? That way, he won't cause you any more trouble. Can you find him? Jiang Chen smiled helplessly. No. The first mountain lord shook her head. Then it's fine. If father wants to disappear, I'm afraid that not many people in the immortal world can find him. Jiang Chen supported himself against the wall. He wasn't worried about Wan Cheng's safety. Without him by his side, his father could deal with any trouble. However, Jiang Chen was afraid that he would go to some bank to borrow money and empty himself. All right, Jiang Chen, I have something important to ask you. You have to tell me the truth. The first mountain lord's expression suddenly turned serious. I will definitely tell you the truth. Seeing her expression, Jiang Chen didn't dare to play any tricks. Just now, I heard the Qinna sect's Grand Elder and Bai Shaoyin talk about the things that happened to you in the Eastern Domain. This isn't the first time that the Black Sect Master has made a move on you. Do you have any ideas? Why don't we think of a way to lure him out and find an opportunity to kill him? The first mountain lord lowered her voice and said to Jiang Chen, it's very difficult. This person's strength is extremely strong, probably not inferior to the 3 great immortal kings. Moreover, his moves are extremely vicious and cunning. Jiang Chen shook his head. With the experience of fighting 3 or 4 times, he already had a general understanding of the Black Sect Master. Unless they defeated him head-on, they wouldn't have a good chance. Don't worry, I won't just sit by and watch. Our Kunlun Immortal Mountain has quite a number of intelligence personnel scattered throughout the immortal world. When I return, I will pass down the message and have them go to the outer region to inquire about this Black Sect. Additionally, I will also plant some men in the northern region. If this person dares to cause trouble for you, our Kunlun immortal mountain will definitely kill him. The first mountain lord looked at Jiang Chun and said with a complicated expression, "Well, I'm already a disciple who has been kicked out of the Kunlun celestial mountain. Can you still help me?" Jiang Chun couldn't believe it. "What? Are you doubting my authority as the first mountain chieftain?" The first mountain chieftain raised her eyebrows. "Of course not. Of course not." Jiang Chun quickly corrected himself. "Don't worry. Since you're allowed to return, it means that you're still considered a disciple of the immortal mountain. Furthermore, there are still true experts who have yet to make a move. I'm sure they'll help you on account of me." The first mountain chieftain's tone softened a little. In Jiang Chen's heart, Zhou Kunlun was the first person to be excluded. This person wouldn't help him unless someone violated the pact of the two realms and the 1,000-year promise. Although he didn't know why the Black Sect master still dared to make a move on him, Jiang Chen roughly knew that Zhou Kunlun might have his reasons. 10th Mountain Chieftain? After eliminating him, Jiang Chen only had one candidate in mind. "Forget it. It's useless to talk to you about this now. The Immortal Emperor's tomb has already closed. Are you going to stay in the eastern region or return to the Kunlun Immortal Mountain with me?" The first mountain chieftain was about to speak, but she waved her hand and swallowed all the words back into her stomach. "I want to stay in the eastern region for a while longer. There are some things that I haven't settled yet." Jiang Chen didn't hesitate and replied directly. "All right, you can continue to stay in the eastern region. I'll return to the northern region later. As the mountain chieftain, I can't leave the Kunlun Immortal Mountain for too long. Otherwise, I'm afraid the matters of the first mountain will accumulate and wait for me to deal with." The first mountain chieftain didn't stop Jiang Chun. "Bring the immortal kings from the overseas Immortal Mountain back with you as well." Jiang Chen continued, "They're not your subordinates. Let them follow you, and they can protect you." The first mountain chieftain said, "They're thick-skinned enough to follow me. Now that I have 3 immortal kings protecting me, I don't need them. Moreover, with so many immortal kings following me, some things won't be easy to deal with." Jiang Chen laughed bitterly. He couldn't wait to chase all these people back. "Kid, you're still not satisfied with the protection of immortal kings. With them around, you can probably do whatever you want in 80% of the immortal world." The first mountain chieftain patted Jiang Chen's head. "Then where are the other 20% of the immortal world?" Jiang Chen felt a little strange and subconsciously dodged. "I don't know either." The first mountain chieftain replied, "Okay." Jiang Chen nodded. He could vaguely feel that the 20% of the immortal world should be the unknown region that Bai Xiaoyan had gone to. His mother might also be living in it. However, Jiang Chen understood that with his current strength, he probably couldn't even enter the unknown region, let alone find his mother. "All right, that's all I have to say to you. You have to be careful in the eastern region. Remember to bring news back to the Kunlun Immortal Mountain if there's anything." The first mountain chieftain didn't continue talking to Jiang Chun. Instead, she turned and walked out of the sect. After watching her leave, Jiang Chun returned to the main hall. In the main hall, the Great Elder was summarizing the treasures obtained by the Thousand Harmonies sect and the casualties of the disciples in the Immortal Emperor's tomb. When he saw Jiang Chun enter, he temporarily asked the little elder to leave. "Little friend Jiang Chun, I just mentioned to the White Immortal King that in addition to what we know, there are 3 sect leaders in the eastern region who have disappeared." The Great Elder looked at Jiang Chun. From his expression, one could tell that he was very concerned about this matter. "Which 3 sects?" Jiang Chun glanced at Bai Xiaoyan and immediately knew that if he didn't speak, Bai Xiaoyan wouldn't tell him about the situation in the tomb. Therefore, he asked directly, "Ku Wanjun of the Heavenly Gem Mountain, Cho Wanli of the Thousand Beasts sect, and Zhou Yuansheng of the Green Shielan sect. I saw the 3 of them enter the tomb with my own eyes. However, the disciples in the sect found out that the 3 of them didn't return to their respective sections. Now, the 3 sects are in a mess." The Great Elder stroked his white beard as if he couldn't understand the reason. "I know." Jiang Chen shrugged. There was nothing that couldn't be said. Moreover, the Great Elder even knew about the Black Sect leader. Chapter 1630. When I was in the tomb of the Immortal Emperor, the 3 of them joined forces to attack me, but they were still killed. Jiang Chun said directly without thinking. Anyway, the Great Elder knew about the Black Sect Master, and now that they were in the eastern region, he knew the situation, which could help him to a certain extent. The three of them are all immortal kings. Even if he had a hunch, he was still a little shocked when he heard Jiang Chun say it himself. Maybe Jiang Chun just wanted to speak, but suddenly thought of the scene he saw on the boundary. The man in black, who was called Black Sky Emperor by Emperor Qianji, was too similar to the Black Sect Master. The two of them were exactly the same in terms of dress and momentum. Even the moves they used were so insidious and vicious. Jiang Chun boldly guessed that the Black Sect Master was probably the descendant of Black Sky Emperor. What is it? Seeing Jiang Chun fall silent, the first elder hurried to ask. Nothing. I mean, this person is ruthless. He made Zhou Yuansheng, Cho Wanli, and others as puppets, and used this to escape the restraint of the Pact of Two Realms and the Millennium Pact to attack me. If I hadn't reacted in time, I'm afraid I would have been a corpse now. Jiang Chun shook his head and didn't say the situation inside the boundary. That's true. When we left the tomb of the immortal emperor, this person also tried to stop us. His moves were very strange. At first glance, he didn't look like a normal immortal king. Little Ape also said he had fought with the Black Sect Master twice and could feel how unusual the other party was. Phew. The Great Elder exhaled a turbid breath. This was the first time he had encountered such a difficult opponent. Those people he had encountered in the past, although some of them had the same cultivation as him and made him feel pressure, were all upright people. No one had ever been like the Black Sect Master, hiding in the dark like a poisonous snake, who would jump out at any time and bite fiercely. Just as he was about to tell Jiang Chun that he had arranged many disciples in the eastern region to search for the whereabouts of this person, a deacon hurried in. Great Elder, outside, when he saw Jiang Chun and the others sitting inside, he felt a little awkward. Just say it. There are no outsiders here. Looking at Little Ape and Huafu, the Great Elder nodded at him. Yes. First Elder, many people from Tianlang Mountain, Wanshou Sect, and Green Shilin Sect have gathered at the entrance of our sect. They want to seek justice for their respective sect masters. They even said, the deacon hurriedly spoke. What's there to say? Don't have any concerns, just say it. The first elder frowned and asked. He also said that we must hand over Jiang Chun. Otherwise, he won't let our Qian sect off. The deacon said without any scruples after hearing the Great Elder's words. Oh. How interesting. The Great Elder laughed out loud. Great Elder, I guess they know something about what happened in the Immortal Emperor's tomb. This is my business and has nothing to do with the Qian sect. I'll go out and deal with it. I'll be back soon. Jiang Chun stood up, cupped his hands at the Great Elder, and turned to walk outside. In the main hall, Bai Xiaoyan didn't say anything and directly followed him. Little Ape and Huafu also followed behind Bai Xiaoyan. Wait! The Great Elder stretched out his hand. Jiang Chun and the others stopped in their tracks. This is our Qian sect. How can I let you go alone? The Great Elder smiled and walked to the middle of the main hall. He looked at the deacon beside him and ordered, pass on my words. Tell all the disciples in the sect to gather at the entrance. I want to see what the three sects want to do by coming together. Understood? The deacon cupped his hands and immediately left. Great Elder, they're obviously here for me. Your Qian sect has already offended the sect master of the Black Sect and Immortal King Xianjun because of me. There's no need to. Even Jiang Chun was very touched by what the Great Elder had done during this period of time. Moreover, almost all the good things in the Immortal Emperor's tomb had entered his pocket. This made him even more embarrassed and uncomfortable. Haha, little friend Jiang Chun, I think you've forgotten what you promised this old man before. The Great Elder laughed. What promise? Jiang Chun asked. As long as you're in the eastern region, our Qian sect will do our best to protect your safety. However, when the Qian sect encounters trouble in the future, your divination pavilion and the immortal mountain outside the sea must also lend a helping hand. The Great Elder looked at Jiang Chun with a serious expression. I'll remember. Jiang Chun nodded heavily. The group quickly rushed to the entrance of the sect. Just as the deacon had said, Hundreds of people from the three sects were gathered outside. Many of them were shouting insults at the top of their lungs. Many of the disciples from the Thousand Harmonies sect clenched their fists. If it wasn't for the Great Elder being here, they would have definitely rushed out and fought to the death with those people outside. It seems that they have a lot of resentment. These insults could anger ordinary disciples, but to the Great Elder, who was used to seeing storms and waves, it was nothing. That's right. Their sect masters disappeared in the immortal Emperor's tomb, so they must be resentful. However, they should vent their resentment in the wrong place. They shouldn't vent it on our Thousand Harmonies sect. They should go find the sect master of the Black Sect. A small elder standing next to the first elder also laughed. I'm afraid they don't even know the sect master of the Black Sect. The Great Elder waved his hand and said, "What should we do? Should we drive them away or compete?" The Great Elder asked. "Open the door and ask them about the situation first. Our Qianni sect has never had any conflicts with any sect in the Eastern region. This time, we can resolve it peacefully. It's better not to fight." The Great Elder waved his hand at the disciple standing at the door. After receiving the Great Elder's signal, the disciple opened the sect door. In an instant, hundreds of people from the three sects gathered outside rushed in together. However, when they saw the Qianni sect ready to fight, they all stood in place and didn't dare to take a step forward. Our Qianni sect can't prepare so much tea for you to come here with such fanfare. Looking at this group of people, the Great Elder said with a smile, "Great Elder Wang Su, we're not here to cause trouble today. It's just that the sect masters of our three sects have all disappeared in the immortal Emperor's tomb. According to our disciples who came back, they all had conflicts with Jiangchun. So we hope that Great Elder Wang Su can hand over Jiangchun and let us ask him clearly." Standing at the front was the elder of Tianlang Mountain, Ku Sunday. In Tianlang Mountain, other than Ku Wanjun, he was the person with the highest status. Relying on Tianlang Mountain status in the eastern region, he naturally became the representative of these people. Chapter 1631. You are Elder Ku's son of Tianlang Mountain, right? The first elder smiled calmly. That's right. Ku's son straightened his back and said, "What you said is quite interesting. The disappearance of three sect masters in the tomb of the immortal emperor is indeed a big deal. But it's really funny that they would blame Jiangchun." The first elder looked at him and said, "Grand Elder Su, we've investigated this matter. Jiangchun was the only one among the three lords who had a conflict with him. Is there anyone else besides him involved in this matter?" Kusan sneered coldly. "May I ask, what is Jiangchun's cultivation?" The first elder nodded and did not continue to argue with him. "It is said that he has reached the second level of the celestial immortal realm." Kusan crossed his arms. Even though Tianlang Mountain was far inferior to Qin's sect, they had the support of three sects, so they did not take Su Qian seriously. "Well said. Jiangchun is indeed at the second level of the celestial immortal realm." "Yes. With his strength, do you think that he can get rid of the three sect masters silently? These three are true immortal kings. Sect Master Ku's son, you must not let your hatred get to your head." The Great Elder sneered coldly. "Jiangchun is weak, but he has many powerful masters around him. Grand Elder Su, don't waste your breath on us. Just give Jiangchun to us. We're all from the sects and schools of the East. It's not good for us to make a scene. As long as we can see Jiangchun today and take him away, I'll definitely come to apologize to him in person for what happened today." Kusan put on an act and cupped his hands at Su Qian. "Jiangchun is indeed here," the first elder said. After he finished speaking, Jiangchun walked out of the crowd. In an instant, Kusan and the others all stared at him. They could not wait to go up and cut Jiangchun into pieces. "Thank you for your understanding, First Elder Su. Goodbye." Kusan's eyes were scarlet red. After he cupped his hands towards Jiangchun once more, he clenched his fist forcefully and erupted with the aura of a celestial monarch. He stretched out his withered hand that was like an eagle's claw and charged fiercely towards Jiangchun. The moment he moved, Su Qian's originally gentle expression instantly sank. With a wave of his hand, a strong wind attacked, stopping Ku Falcon's figure and blowing him back more than 10 steps. He only managed to stabilize himself with the support of the Tianlang Mountain disciples. Great Elder Su, why are you doing this? Ku-sun asked with an ugly expression. Ku-sun, I think you should have heard of the things that happened in the immortal emperor's tomb. In order to protect Jiangchun, this old man was willing to fight with immortal king Xianjun. Do you think I will hand him over to you today? Great Elder asked with narrowed eyes. Great Elder Su, we won't kill him. We just want to bring him back to Tianlang Mountain and ask him how our 3 sect leaders went missing. Ku-sun didn't dare to fight Su Qian head-on. If you have anything to say, ask clearly here. If you don't have anything to say, go back to where you came from. Don't do it in front of our Chinna sect. Ku-sun, I have given you face since we are both from the eastern region. I hope you can grasp this opportunity and don't continue to go out of line. Otherwise, I don't mind letting the eastern region have one less immortal master. Great Elder's tone was flat, but the threat in it was self-evident. Ku-sun's eyes were gloomy. He knew that if he went back today, not only would he not be able to find out why the sect leaders went missing, but the reputation of Tianlang Mountain would also plummet. He was afraid that he would no longer be able to raise his head in the eastern region. However, if he insisted on taking Jiangchun with him, he wouldn't be a match for Su Qian. Even the hundreds of disciples from the 3 sects and schools would be killed here, and the Chinna sect would only suffer a small loss. After thinking about it, Ku-sun thought of a good idea. I heard that when Jiangchun entered the immortal emperor's tomb, his cultivation was only at the 3rd level of true immortal realm. In just a month, he actually rose to the 2nd level of celestial immortal realm. I think he must have had some fortuitous encounters. Ku-sun suddenly laughed and asked, This has nothing to do with you. Great Elder said faintly, How about this, Great Elder Su? Let Jiangchun come out and fight with the elders of our Tianlang Mountain. If he can defeat our elders, then today's matter will be over, and I will not come here in the future. But if he can't win, then he has to go back with us and explain everything clearly. Ku-sun stared at Jiangchun in the crowd and said word by word, Why? Okay, I agree. Before Great Elder finished speaking, Jiangchun's voice sounded. Looking sideways at Jiangchun, Great Elder saw that Jiangchun's face was normal and his eyes were firm. So Great Elder did not say anything more. You have backbone. Ku-sun, come out and fight with this Jiangchun. Let's see what kind of fortuitous encounter he had in the immortal emperor's tomb. Seeing that Jiangchun agreed, Ku-sun suddenly laughed. But little friend Jiangchun, fists and feet have no eyes. If you get hurt, don't blame us. I'll return the same words to you. Under everyone's gaze, Jiangchun walked out from the crowd. But when Ku-sun came out, the people of Qianhe sect were a little angry. This Ku-sun, he was a 3rd level immortal venerable. He was 2 levels higher than Jiangchun. Moreover, he was not bound by the 1,000-year pact and the pact of 2 realms. Ku-sun, after sensing the strength of this person, Great Elder's aura became completely gloomy. Little friend Jiangchun, you agreed to it yourself just now. In front of the 3 great sects and Qianhe sect, you're not thinking of going back on your words, are you? Ku-sun sneered. Crossing 2 levels was enough to suppress Jiangchun in a very short time. At that time, even Su Qian would have nothing to say. I've always kept my word. Naturally, I won't go back on my words. It's just that you've mentioned your conditions, but I haven't said mine. Jiangchun glanced at Ku-sun and said, Just say it, Ku-sun said casually. If I win, not only will you leave here, but you'll also have to kneel down and kowtow to me and Great Elder Su Qian to apologize for rashly breaking into the sect today. Under everyone's gaze, Jiangchun's voice slowly sounded. As soon as this sentence came out, it immediately caused an uproar. Who was Ku-sun? He was a dignified elder of Tianlang Mountain and a real, immortal monarch. This kind of strength could be considered a powerhouse in the entire immortal world. Now that he had to kneel down and kowtow, it was simply more heartbreaking than killing him. Tisk, so ruthless. Huafu clicked her tongue and sighed, looking at Jiangchun with some fluctuations in her eyes. That's an immortal monarch. I don't know if Master is her opponent. Bifeng, you clench her closed tightly, worried about Jiangchun. Little girl, don't worry. With us here, we will definitely not let them take Jiangchun away. Seeing Bai Fengyu's worried look, Huofu couldn't help but cover her mouth and chuckle. Chapter 1632. Brat, you'd better weigh your own strength before you speak. Ku Sun's face turned pale. Jiangchen's words were like a slap to his face. It was a great humiliation for a dignified, immortal monarch to be ridiculed by a young second-layer heaven immortal. How do we compete? Jiangchen ignored him and walked straight to the entrance. He looked at Ku Shan, who was standing in front of him, and asked faintly, "There are no rules. If one party begs for mercy or dies in battle, the winner will be decided. Do you dare to accept the challenge?" Ku Shan stared at Jiangchen. When Jiangchen insulted Ku Sun, he was already prepared to kill him. As long as the rules were explained in advance. Even if he killed Jiangchen in the competition, Su Qian wouldn't do it in front of the disciples of the four sections. Of course, Jiangchen smiled faintly. After Jiangchen said that, the four sects all retreated hundreds of steps, leaving the middle area as the venue for the battle between Jiangchen and Ku Shan. However, they didn't think that there would be much suspense in this battle. The gap between an immortal venerable and a heaven immortal was like a natural chasm. Jiangchen would be killed in the first moment of the battle. "Can I?" the great elder asked in a low voice as they retreated. "And no problem." Jiangchen nodded. With his current strength and the immortal techniques he had mastered, he wouldn't be at a disadvantage even though he might not win against a third-layer immortal venerable. "By the way, with the clothes I gave you. This way, you will be able to absorb a large part of Ku Shan's attack. When the time comes, I will ask them to stop. As long as you don't lose, you have already won to a certain extent." Even though Jiangchen was so sure, the great elder was still worried. Jiangchen was stunned for a moment, not knowing how to reply. He had already given the clothes to Nian Chang'e. "Well, the clothes are in the guest room. Isn't it too late to go back and get them now?" Of course, Jiangchen couldn't say the truth, so he had a bright idea and pretended to be embarrassed. "Don't worry, I'll go get it for you." Who would have thought that the great elder didn't care about this at all? What he wanted was Jiangchen's safety. "Wait for the great elder. I think we can defeat him even without that robe." Jiangchen put his hand on the great elder's arm and said, "It just so happens that I was in seclusion in the immortal emperor's tomb. My strength has increased, and I have also obtained an immortal art. I can use this opportunity to test it out. Besides, if he dares to hurt me, those immortal kings by my side won't let him off." "All right, since you've decided, then take care of yourself." The first elder stopped and instructed in a low voice. "Yes, I know." Jiangchen nodded and stepped forward, standing in front of Ku Shan. All of a sudden, all of the sect's disciples shut their mouths and stared at the open area. They had never seen a fight between a second-tier celestial immortal and a third-tier immortal venerable. They also wanted to see why Jiangchen was so confident that he had the nerve to challenge a practitioner 2 tiers higher than him. He even said that if Ku Shan was defeated, Ku Sun would kneel down and kowtow to him and Su Qian to apologize. When Jiangchen stepped forward by Xiaoyun, who was relaxed a moment ago, instantly tensed up. Immortal chi slowly flowed in her meridians, ready to attack at any time. He didn't care about the competition or the sex in the eastern region. What he wanted was to protect Jiangchen from any threat to his life. A third-layer heaven immortal. Do you really think that you can look down on everyone just because you got some benefits in the immortal emperor's tomb? To tell you the truth, with your strength, I can kill you as easily as killing an ant." Ku Shan stretched his muscles and bones. When his right hand dropped to his side, a huge mountain-splitting axe appeared in his hand. The axe directly smashed the ground, smashing the stone slabs of the Thousand Harmony sect. The loud sound made many people tremble. "Maybe." Jiangchen raised his hand and replied faintly. As soon as his voice fell, a bolt of lightning struck down and hit him directly. After the light dissipated, a blue long sword that was flashing like lightning appeared in his hand. If one looked closely, there was a faint flame burning in the lightning. This was some of the content that Jiangchen comprehended after reading the fusion method. Your momentum is not bad, but it's a pity that your strength is too weak. Such a shocking scene naturally made Ku Shan a little stunned. However, when he came to his senses and realized that Jiang Chun was only a second-layer heaven immortal, he waved the mountain-splitting axe in his hand and rose into the air. Then, he slashed down fiercely at Jiang Chen's head. He believed that in the face of absolute strength, no fancy moves would have any effect. Jiang Chun was not stupid enough to take his attack head-on. When Ku Shan rose into the air, he immediately rushed to the side, holding the thunder sword tightly in his hand. As his figure kept moving, there was a faint sound of thunder explosion behind him. Dodge! After his attack missed, Ku Shan turned to look at Jiang Chun with a disdainful smile. Why? I can't dodge. Jiang Chun smiled faintly. Of course you can dodge, but let's see how long you can dodge. At this time, Ku Shan did not take Jiang Chun seriously at all. Although the thunder was shocking enough, Jiang Chun did not even have the courage to fight with him. How could he defeat him? After having this idea, Ku Shan became even more aggressive. He did not have any defensive moves at all. In his eyes, it was only a matter of time before he caught Jiang Chun. As long as he caught Jiang Chun, he would lose his life. As a result, a strange scene appeared on the field. Jiang Chun kept dodging and did not have the slightest intention to fight. As Ku Shan was a strength-type cultivator, he could not catch Jiang Chun for a while. The two of them kept chasing back and forth in the open space. What is this kid doing? Ku Sun frowned. Jiang Chen's actions made him feel confused. Could it be that he's stalling for time? A middle-aged man about 50 years old in Tianlang Mountain said, "What's the use of stalling for time? He is not Ku Shan's opponent at all. It is only a matter of time before he is defeated." Ku Sun shook his head. He felt that Jiang Chun was very strange now. If he was really afraid, why would he agree at the beginning and even dare to say those outrageous words to him? On the other side, in China's sect, many elders, protectors, and even the deacons and ordinary disciples were talking about Jiang Chun. Let's wait and see. This kid doesn't look like the kind of person who will do things that he is not sure of. Seeing that, Bai Xiaoyan could not help but want to take action. The great elder put his hand on her arm and whispered to persuade her. The gap between him and a senior immortal is still too big. I am afraid that if I don't take action, he will not be able to hold on. Bai Xiaoyan took a deep breath. Chapter 1633. Don't worry, if there's a problem with this kid, I'll immediately go up and ensure his safety. The great elder's gaze was always on Jiang Chun, but he was afraid that Bai Xiaoyan would suddenly make a move. So he advised, I'm the great elder of China's sect. Even if I make a move, they can't say anything. Bai Xiaoyan thought for a moment and felt that the great elder's words were indeed reasonable, so she gradually relaxed. On the field, Jiang Chun was still dodging everywhere. All of Ku Shan's attacks were completely avoided by him. The originally smooth tiles had already been cracked inch by the mountain-splitting axe. If someone suddenly broke in from the outside at this time, they would definitely think that China's sect had encountered a great disaster. Kid, stop if you have the ability. Ku Shan held the mountain-splitting axe, pointed at Jiang Chun, and shouted in a low voice. You said that? Jiang Chun stopped in place and suddenly revealed a bright smile. Just you wait. I'll kill you now. Ku Shan took a deep breath. He felt as if he had been ruthlessly played, especially in front of the four sect disciples, which made him very embarrassed. Jiang Chun did not speak and just stood there quietly. Ku Shan could no longer bear it. With his strength, he could easily kill Jiang Chun, but now he had wasted so much time. He rushed toward Jiang Chun at an extremely fast speed, and the mountain-splitting axe in his hand was aimed at Jiang Chen's head. As long as he swung it heavily, he could directly break Jiang Chen's head. At that time, even if a great heaven immortal came here, it would be impossible to save this person. But this was only what he thought. Ku Shan's speed was very fast, but when he was only 5 or 6 meters away from Jiang Chun, the mountain-splitting axe in his hand was already raised high, and the corner of his mouth revealed a smile, but his whole body stopped. At the place where he stood, a vine as thick as a finger suddenly grew out from the cracks of the stone tiles, firmly binding his legs. Do you think that with just these things, you can bind me? Kushan was a little surprised. Obviously, he did not expect Jiangchun to have such a method. It was just a spell of a second-level heaven immortal. How could it cause too much of a hindrance to him? Kushan used all his strength to break free, and the vines that bound his legs were forcibly broken by him. After stretching his shoulders, Kushan once again rushed towards Jiangchun. However, every time he took a step forward, vines would grow out from the stone bricks again. This time, however, the vines did not simply bind his legs. They wrapped around his entire body, making it difficult for him to move. Even the mountain-splitting axe in his hand was wrapped up by the vines. No matter how hard he struggled, he was unable to break free from these vines. "Let me go!" Kushan's face was flushed red. He was taken down by a junior in front of so many people. This made him lose all face. He felt that he had lost all his face. "Didn't you want to kill me?" Jiangchen held the thunder longsword in his hand and slowly walked in front of him. The moment Kushan lost his ability to move, the onlookers finally understood that Jiangchen was not blindly dodging, but rather stalling for time to set up this kind of trap, waiting for Kushan to fall into it. Now that Kushan had lost his ability to move, in other words, he was already at the mercy of Jiangchen. "You dare to hurt me?" Seeing the long sword in Jiangchen's hand, Kushan secretly swallowed his saliva. Cold sweat flowed down his back. Then he pretended to be calm and questioned, "Why wouldn't I dare to hurt you?" Jiangchen smiled calmly. He put the long sword against Kushan's neck directly. The power of thunder on the sword flowed into the vines, binding Kushan even tighter. Kushan was not even able to move his fingers. If I remember correctly, Tianlang Mountain once said that there are no eyes in a fight. Life and death are up to fate, right? "Jiangchun, if you dare to hurt Kushan, I will definitely kill you today." Kusan was worried that Jiangchun would really make a move. Although Kushan was only a third-level immortal venerable, if he was killed by Jiangchun, their Tianlang Mountain would no longer have the face to continue living in the eastern region. Moreover, their sect master and 3 quasi-mortal kings had already gone missing. He could not accept any more accidents happening to their experts. "What if I insist on killing you?" Jiangchun snorted coldly. After saying that, he swung his long sword. The long sword that was mixed with the thunder force was incomparably sharp. It directly cut through the vines and cut Kushan's neck. Plop! With one slash, Kushan's head fell to the ground. After rolling a few times, it stopped in front of the disciples of the 3 major sections. Seeing this scene, those people were so frightened that they kept retreating. A third-level immortal venerable being killed by a second-level heaven immortal was something that they did not even dare to imagine. But now, it happened right in front of them. With his head cut off, Kushan was already dead. Even if there was an immortal emperor's pill, there was no way to save him. With a thought, Jiangchun removed all the vines. Kushan's body fell limply on the ground. From the wound, blood slowly flowed out, dyeing the white stone bricks red. I have underestimated him. Seeing the scene in front of him, the worried expression on the great elder's face disappeared without a trace. His whole body relaxed. I also did not expect him to be able to kill a third-level immortal venerable. Bai Xiaoyan was also very surprised. However, what surprised him the most wasn't the fact that Jiangchen had killed Kushan, but the fact that the wood element immortal method could trap a practitioner who was 2 levels higher than him and make him at his mercy was definitely not an average thing. It was highly possible that he had gotten it from the grave of an immortal emperor. Only an immortal method left by an immortal emperor could be so powerful. "Jiangchun, you dare to kill the people of our Tianlang Mountain. If we don't get rid of you today, there will be no need for our Tianlang Mountain to exist in the eastern region in the future." Compared to the Great Elder and Bai Xiaoyan, who were relaxed, Kusan was extremely angry at this moment. He did not expect Jiangchun to be able to defeat Kushan, nor did he expect that Jiangchun would dare to kill him. "Elder Kusan, this is the rule that you have set. Do you think that only you can kill me and I have to sit and wait for my death? Jiangchen looked at Ku Sun coldly. He did not back down at all. Sharp-tongued brat, follow me back to Tianlang Mountain. Ku Sun's entire body erupted with a very powerful aura. As he spoke, his figure had already flashed in front of Jiangchen. His hand was about to grab Jiangchen's neck. Stop! An old voice sounded. Just as Ku Sun was about to grab Jiangchen, the Great Elder's palm suddenly pressed down on his arm, causing his palm to be less than half a meter away from Jiangchen, but he could no longer move forward. Great Elder Su, he killed the people of our Tianlang Mountain. Ku Sun frowned. The rules were set by you, and my words are also here. No matter who dares to hurt Jiangchen today, our Qianni sect will not rest until one of the sects completely disappears from the eastern region. If you don't believe me, you can come and try. The Great Elder shouted in a deep voice. Chapter 1634. These words were not only said to Ku Sun, but also to the people of the other two sections. After the first elder's voice fell, no one dared to speak. Although they came today to seek an explanation, they did not dare to offend the Qianni sect, the most mysterious sect in the eastern region. Once they offended them, only death would await them. Well, for the sake of Great Elder Su Qian, I can let you go. Ku Sun stared at Jiangchen for a while before retracting his hand. Thank you for your understanding. The first elder pretended to smile. However, I will still investigate the matter of the sect master's disappearance. If it is really related to Jiangchen, I hope that Great Elder Su Qian will not shield this person and give our three sects an explanation. Ku Sun glanced at Jiangchen gloomily. No problem. Our Qianni sect will definitely cooperate. The first elder waved his hand and said casually, Let's go. Ku Sun waved his hand and was ready to leave with everyone. Just when everyone thought it was over, Jiangchen's voice suddenly sounded, Great Elder Ku Sun, wait a minute, you seem to have forgotten something. What is it? Ku Sun took a deep breath and clenched his fists tightly before loosening them stiffly. Only then did he suppress the anger in his heart and turned his head to ask. Of course, it's the bet that we made before I fought with Ku Shan. If he wins, I'll follow you back to Heavenly Gem Mountain and tell you everything that happened in the Celestial Emperor's tomb. But if I win, you'll have to kneel down to me and Great Elder Su Qian and apologize for what you did today. Great Elder Ku Sun, you can't have forgotten, right? The words that shocked everyone came out of Jiangchen's mouth. For a moment, everyone thought that Jiangchen had gone crazy. It was obvious that Ku Sun wanted to stop today's matter for the sake of the Qianni sect. Not only did this kid not know how to restrain himself, but he also dared to say such words. Moreover, with these words, all of Ku Yan's escape routes were blocked. What did you say? The corners of Ku Sun's mouth twitched, as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. Jiangchen, I won't bicker with you today because of First Elder Su Qian. Don't push your luck. I can kill you with a flip of my hand. Do you want to go back on your word? Jiangchen was not afraid of him at all. That's right, Elder Ku Sunday. This is a rule that was set before the fight. As an elder of Tianlang Mountain, you can't possibly go back on your words in front of the four sects and hundreds of disciples, right? I'm afraid that this is the real move that will make your Tianlang Mountain lose face. Sensing that something was wrong with Ku Sun's situation, Bai Xiaoyan took 2 steps forward and stood directly beside Jiangchen. Her Immortal King aura was undoubtedly released, and it seemed like she was about to attack if there was any disagreement. Although Ape and Huafu did not speak, they both took a step forward. But when they mobilized their immortal powers to support Jiangchen, they found that their immortal powers at the 6th and 5th stage of the Immortal King realm could not be used at all. The immortal powers they released were only at the level of immortal monarchs. What's going on? Ape looked serious and asked in a low voice. I'm afraid it's the immortal emperor's doing. As long as we leave the tomb, the immortal powers in our bodies will be sealed. Huafu's coquettish face was also full of disbelief. But when she thought about it carefully, she quickly figured out the reason. This Emperor Qinji, Ape cursed in a low voice. When we followed him, we were only at the level of immortal monarchs. We only broke through to the immortal king realm because of the good fortune he gave us. Now that we've left, we've been restored to the level of immortal monarchs. It's not unacceptable. Huafu was very thorough. For her, the strength of immortal monarchs was enough to deal with all the trouble she encountered. Seeing the three people who suddenly stepped forward, Ku-san hesitated. He knew his own strength. He knew that he would be defeated by First Elder Su Qian, not to mention the experts around Jiangchen. Moreover, he suddenly remembered that when his disciple came back, Jiangchen had said that when Jiangchen came to the tomb of the immortal emperor, he was followed by nearly 10 immortal kings. Jiangchen, I've already decided to let you go. Let's forget about today's matter. Ku-san exhaled a few mouthfuls of turbid qi, forcibly suppressing the anger in his heart, and said in a low voice, I don't think so. Elder Ku-san, you're an elder of a sect. If you don't keep your words, you'll be looked down upon by others. Besides, if you agree to a bet, you have to accept defeat. Jiangchen shook his head, and his attitude was very firm. Don't go too far. Ku-san was a little flustered and exasperated. It was useless to say anything good or bad. Today he had already lost face in front of the 4 sections. If he really knelt down, the news would spread throughout the eastern region tomorrow. Great Elder, what do you say? Jiangchen tilted his head and asked. Don't go back on your word. The Great Elder was also a little disgusted by Ku-san's sudden interrogation today. All right. Seeing that he couldn't avoid kneeling down, Ku-san's hands trembled and he took 2 steps back. Under the gaze of hundreds of people, he suddenly knelt on the ground and kowtowed twice to the position where Jiangchen and the Great Elder were standing. When his head touched the stone brick, Ku-san felt that he was no longer himself. From today onwards, he would become the joke of the entire eastern region. Even the disciples of Tianlang Mountain would no longer respect him. Instead, they would poke at his spine and treat him as a laughingstock. Elder Ku-san, get up. Jiangchen said with satisfaction. Let's go. Ku-san stood up with a dull expression. With a wave of his hand, he walked straight out of Qianhe's sect, not even bothering with Ku-shan's corpse. Within a few minutes, hundreds of people left one after another. Except for the cracked floor and the corpse on the ground, no one knew what had just happened. Disperse! The Great Elder waved his hand and said in a deep voice. A few disciples quickly stepped forward and disposed of Ku-shan's corpse. The other disciples scattered in all directions, leaving only by Xiaoyun and the others standing there. Jiangchen, you did a good job today. To be able to kill an immortal prime as a second-layer heaven immortal, in my impression, there aren't many people who can do that. But this time, you have also formed a grudge with Tianlang Mountain. They will definitely hold a grudge against you in the future. The Great Elder patted Jiangchen's shoulder and asked worriedly. Great Elder. Jiangchen laughed. As early as an immortal ancient Doubt City, Tianlang Mountain had already regarded me as a thorn in their side. In the immortal emperor's tomb, they repeatedly attacked me. Our grudge has already been formed. This time it just deepened a little. Although that's the case, you still have to be careful. If you are in the eastern region, I can protect your safety. But you will have to leave sooner or later. The Great Elder nodded and sighed. Chapter 1635. After closing the door, everyone returned to the main hall. Just as they were about to enter, Ape pulled Jiangchen's arm. We have something to tell you. Ape and Huafu stood together, looking serious. What's the matter? Seeing their expressions, Jiangchen thought something serious had happened. After we came out of the tomb, we were only at the immortal monarch realm. Little Ape sighed. He still couldn't accept this reality. He even wanted to blame Monarch Qianji. What's the matter? Jiangchen was a little surprised. We were able to reach the immortal king realm because of the opportunity given by the immortal monarch. Now that we have left the tomb, the immortal monarch must have sealed our cultivation. We are only at the immortal monarch realm for the time being. I don't know when we can recover our previous strength. Huafu felt that something was wrong with Ape's mood, so she took the initiative to speak. She explained everything clearly in a few sentences. Is there any impact on your strength? Jiangchen touched his chin. This was the first time he had heard of this. Just a drop in our strength. Other than that, I don't feel any discomfort. Huafu shrugged. You can still cultivate your strength back. Jiang Chun didn't feel anything. The only thing he was unhappy about was the disappearance of 2 experts above the 5th layer of the Immortal King realm. If Emperor Qianji hadn't died in the battle thousands of years ago, I would have asked him why he did this. Ape clenched his fist, looking very unhappy. Hearing Ape's words, Jiang Chun thought of the situation he had seen in the bounded domain. He bade farewell to the 2 of them and walked to his room. What's wrong with him? Seeing Jiang Chun in such a hurry, Ape and Huafu looked at each other in surprise. They didn't know why he suddenly became like this. I don't know either. Huafu shrugged. After returning to the room, Jiang Chun closed the door and windows tightly. Taking out the map from his storage ring, Jiang Chun fell into deep thought. That year, in order to protect his mother, Emperor Qianji did not hesitate to fight with He Tiandi, which led to heavy casualties in the sect. In the end, he fell with the sect disciples. In that case, this map should be something very important. However, Jiang Chun really didn't understand what area was marked on the map. Was it the Immortal Emperor's private stash of treasures or immortal jades? Of course, Jiang Chun had another idea. That was, this map was the real location of his mother's residence. Based on Emperor Qianji's affection for his mother, this was very possible. However, the immortal world was vast and boundless, not to mention the unknown regions. Now that Bai Xinling had entered the place to investigate the whereabouts of his mother, if he wanted to enter, he would have to at least reach the Immortal King realm first. If this was really his mother's residence, he might really be able to see the person he had been longing for day and night. After thinking for a while, Jiang Chun put the map back into the storage ring. Looking for his mother was a matter for later. The top priority was to solve the threat of the Black Sect sovereign. Tianlang Mountain. Ku Sun came back with his disciple in a mighty manner. Elder. Seeing him, the disciple quickly trotted over. Get lost! Ku Sun roared. Then he kicked forward directly on the disciple's chest. The disciple's cultivation was only around the level of a golden immortal. He couldn't bear such a fierce force at all. After flying back dozens of meters, he fell hard on the wall and spat out a mouthful of blood. His whole body lay on the ground and kept twitching. The sudden situation stunned everyone in the sect. They didn't know why Ku Sun, who had always been kind, suddenly hurt his own sect's disciple. Not only the disciples, but even some of the guardians and elders didn't dare to step forward. If I don't kill Jiang Chun, I swear I'm not a human. Ku Sun clenched his fists tightly. His nails were deeply embedded in his flesh, but he was completely unaware. Kneeling in front of the Qinna sect made him lose all his dignity. From that moment on, there was no longer the sect in his mind. He no longer searched for Ku Wanjuan's whereabouts. The only thing in his mind was to make Jiang Chun disappear completely from the immortal world. For this, he was willing to pay any price. Now that the sect master has disappeared in the immortal emperor's tomb, from today onwards, everyone in Tianlang Mountain will listen to my orders. If anyone dares to disobey, don't blame me for punishing them with the highest punishment in the sect. Ku Sun shouted in a low voice when he saw the disciples who stood around and didn't dare to move or speak. He wanted to gather the power of the entire sect to kill Jiang Chun. Why? At this moment, a rather young voice sounded. Among the many disciples, Ku Yu walked out. Ku Sun, you're just one of the elders in our Tianlang Mountain. I'm the young sect master. Now that father is missing, the entire Tianlang Mountain should listen to my orders and respect me as the sect master. Since when is it your turn to talk nonsense here? Father has only been missing for 2 days, and you're eager to establish yourself as the sect master. This makes me suspect that father's disappearance has something to do with you. Ku Yu sneered and pointed at Ku Sun with disdain. Young sect master, I'm doing this for the sake of the sect. Moreover, I have no interest in the position of sect master. As long as the matter in front of you is resolved, you can ascend to the position of sect master. Ku Sun took a deep breath. For the sake of young sect master Ku Yu, he didn't want to make a move. You're making it sound nice. You said that after resolving the matter in front of you, you should be dealing with me. After you've dealt with me, the young sect master, you can become the sect master of Tianling Mountain. Kuyu didn't believe Ku-san's words at all. Young sect master, please don't suspect me. Ku-san clenched his fists. He had suffered enough humiliation in the China sect. He originally thought that after returning to the sect, he could start planning how to get rid of Jiang Chun. But now Kuyu had appeared. He couldn't deal with Kuyu directly like how he dealt with the ordinary disciples. The few immortal kings in the sect who were loyal to Ku Wanjun would definitely not allow him to do so. All right then, since you don't want me to suspect you, from now on, everyone in Tianling Mountain will listen to my orders. No matter what you want to do, you must get my permission. Otherwise, your cultivation will be crippled, and you will be kicked out of the sect. Kuyu wasn't a fool. He knew that the sect was now in the most sensitive and dangerous period. If someone like Ku-san took advantage of this loophole, then not only would he not be able to become the sect master, he might even die an unnatural death. Young sect master, Ku-san's face was terrifyingly gloomy. If it weren't for his fear of the few immortal kings in the sect, he would have already killed Kuyu. What? You just said that you won't fight for the position, and now you don't want to obey my orders? Kuyu looked coldly at Ku-sande. When the latter brought the disciples out of the sect, he was already on guard. Chapter 16:36. I'll obey. Ku-san gritted his teeth and said, Then, Elder Ku-san, please go back and rest. Remember to inform me if you need anything in the future. Now that I'm the sect master of Heavenly Gem Mountain, I naturally have to play a role. Kuyu waved his hand casually. Yes. Ku-san cupped his fists and glanced at Kuyu gloomily before walking towards his residence. Invite all the sect masters and immortal kings to the main hall. I have something to say to them. After dealing with Ku-san, Kuyu was even more confident that he could support the entire sect. Soon, the disciples passed down his order. More than a dozen people gathered in the main hall, listening to Kuyu's words. In Qianhe's sect, Jiang Chun was sitting cross-legged on the bed, reading the immortal techniques that he had brought out from the treasure pavilion. The technique that he used to defeat Ku-shan was from the wood attribute immortal technique, beginning of all beginnings. When Jiang Chun first obtained this immortal technique, he had already flipped through it. Due to his wood attribute immortal qi, he had learned the most common technique. If it wasn't for this technique, Jiang Chun wouldn't have been able to defeat Ku-shan. These immortal techniques were difficult for Jiang Chun to fully comprehend. From the second level onwards, it required the strength of an immortal venerable. With his current cultivation base, he was afraid that he wouldn't even be able to learn the basics. Including the beginning of all beginnings, Jiang Chun had only imitated it. Even so, he was able to kill an immortal venerable with his heavenly immortal cultivation base. If he could truly comprehend these immortal techniques, he was afraid that he would have the confidence to escape from an immortal monarch. This immortal emperor is more interesting than Bai Xianling. After keeping the immortal techniques, Jiang Chun sighed with emotion. Although Bai Xianling was known as one of the three immortal kings, Tianji Pavilion was too poor. Even if they searched the entire sect, they wouldn't even be able to gather 50 million immortal jades. Each of the immortal arts of Monarch Tianji was worth at least 3 billion immortal jades. In addition to the immortal emperor's tomb, it wouldn't be a problem to buy 20 billion immortal jades. It was just that Jiang Chun was only thinking about it. The other things were fine, but Jiang Chun didn't intend to sell these immortal techniques. By the time he fully comprehended them, he would definitely have reached the immortal king realm. At that time, it would be time for him to nurture his own forces. He couldn't just rot in the divination pavilion forever. Not only would he not be able to earn any benefits, he might even end up losing his life. Bang, bang. Just as Jiang Chun was thinking, someone knocked on the door. Please come in. Jiang Chun coughed, put all the immortal arts in front of him into the storage ring, and said slowly. The person who came in was Bai Fengyu. The moment she entered, she sat beside Jiang Chun's bed. What's the matter? Ever since the previous incident, Jiang Chun felt that he should keep some distance from Bai Fengyu. Otherwise, sooner or later, there would be trouble. Hence, he sat inside and asked awkwardly, "I'm here to bring you some water." Bai Fengyu got up and walked to the table, poured a cup of water, and brought it to Jiang Chun. "Thank you, ah." Jiang Chun was speechless. "You're welcome." Bai Fengyu smiled sweetly. Then, her expression changed slightly. "Master, I want to ask, isn't Sister Huafu, the spiritual beast, guarding the immortal emperor's barrier? Now that she has regained her freedom, why didn't she return to the bathing flame phoenix race? Why is she following us? She and Little Ape just came out. I don't know where they are going. So she wants to follow us to familiarize herself with the immortal world before leaving." Jiang Chun took a sip, put the cup down, and said, "That's it?" Bai Fengyu frowned slightly. "Of course. When has Master ever lied to you? They are at the 5th level of the Immortal King realm and above. How can they always follow behind a heavenly immortal like me? Why don't you use your brain to think?" Jiang Chun said with a smile. He hoped that Little Ape and Huafu could follow them. Unfortunately, his temple was too small and couldn't accommodate the two great gods. "All right, then I'm relieved." Upon hearing Jiang Chun's words, Bai Fengyu relaxed completely. She stood up and walked out of the room as light as a feather. "What do you mean relieved?" Jiang Chun was confused. What replied him was Bai Fengyu gently waving her white, slender hand. "This girl is getting more and more unfathomable." Jiang Chun shook his head and smiled. He didn't take it to heart. After closing the door, he continued to take out the immortal technique from his storage ring and read it again. Night fell. In the quiet heavenly gem mountain, Ku-san was sitting by the bed. He recalled everything that happened today. Just as he was about to tell Kuyu the truth and use the strength of heavenly gem mountain to persuade the Thousand Beasts sect and Green Shilin sect to secretly take action against Jiang Chun, a wisp of black fog rose in his room. "Sect Master Ku-san, I understand your feelings very well. However, young Sect Master is very wary of you now. If you dare to look for him, he will definitely find a way to take you down. At that time, not only will you not be able to take revenge, you might even be crippled of your cultivation and driven out of the sect." The Sect Master of the Black Sect said as soon as he appeared. "Who are you?" Ku-san had never seen him before. Just like Ku Wanjun and Ku Yu, he immediately became vigilant. "Leave our sect immediately. You don't want to kill Jiang Chun? You don't want to know why your sect master left the immortal emperor's tomb? You want Ku Yu to drive you out of Heavenly Gem Mountain?" The sect master of the Black Sect stood motionless. Since he left the immortal emperor's tomb, he directly hid in Heavenly Gem Mountain, ready to find an opportunity to take action again. Now that he found Ku-san, he was sure that this person would be his helper. "Who are you? Why do you know so much about me?" Ku-san was stunned for a moment. He quickly took 2 steps back, picked up the short sword on the wall, and pointed it directly at the person in front of him. "Who I am is not important. What's important is that you consider my problem first. If you don't want to do anything, then I can turn around and leave now. However, no one can help you in the future." The sect master of the Black Sect turned around and pretended to leave. This trick could be said to be effective in any situation. "Wait," Ku-san thought for a moment and reached out to stop him. "Sure enough, I didn't misjudge you." The sect master of the Black Sect turned around and said pretentiously, "But you have to tell me why you want to help me. And why do you know so much about our Heavenly Gem Mountain and my matters? And how are you going to help me?" Although Ku-san agreed, he still didn't completely let down his guard. "You don't need to know so much. Listen to me. I can make the entire Heavenly Gem Mountain yours." The sect master of the Black Sect couldn't explain these things to him. Chapter 1637. What right do you have to say that? You're not from Tianlang Mountain. Why are you interfering in our matters? Ku-san was still a little vigilant. He could feel that there was something wrong with the person in front of him, but he needed this person's help. Otherwise, he might really be schemed against by Ku Yu. "I also have some grudges with Jiang Chun," the Black sect master said faintly. "With your strength, you should be able to get rid of him easily. Why do you still need to join forces with me?" Ku-san slowly put down the short sword in his hand. "You should know about the Pact of Two Realms and the 1,000-Year Pact, right?" The Black sect master said casually. Although he didn't care about these rules at all, if he didn't abide by them, he would still cause unnecessary trouble for himself. Ku-san was silent. He knew that with his current strength and situation, there was no way for him to take revenge. He even had to face the possibility of Kuyu attacking him at any time and driving him out of the sect. The longer this dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. The rumors about him in the eastern region would also become more and more fierce. As long as you agree today, I can make you the sect master of Tianling Mountain and help you get rid of Jiangchun. The Black Sect's sect master crossed his legs. I agree. Thinking of the humiliation he suffered in Shinasek today and how his face was actually rubbed against the ground by a brat with only the cultivation of a celestial immortal, he couldn't bear it anymore and directly agreed. That's right. Remember what you said. If you want to go back on your words, you're not qualified. The Black Sect's sect master sneered and directly pressed one hand on Ku-san's shoulder. Immediately, his figure slowly disappeared from the stool. Then his entire body invaded Ku-san's body. You! Ku-san was shocked when he sensed the abnormality. Don't worry, I'm just borrowing your body. Next, you just need to listen to my orders. I guarantee that you'll become the sect master of Tianling Mountain and get your revenge. The Black Sect's sect master's voice also came from his mouth. Ku-san didn't reply. It wasn't that he agreed, but when the Black Sect's sect master's voice fell, the light in his eyes disappeared. Then his eyes were as black as ink, looking extremely strange. Walking out of the room, Ku-san went straight to the main hall of the sect. At the same time, Kuyu had gathered all the elders and immortal kings in the sect to discuss how to eliminate dissidents in the sect and eliminate all those who were scheming for the position of sect master. Out of respect for Ku Wanjun, no one dared to refute him. Young sect master, how can I be absent from the sect assembly? Ku-san's voice came from outside. He pushed open the door of the hall with one hand and looked at the young man sitting in the middle. Elder Ku-san, I'm not asking you to go back and rest. You don't need to participate in tonight's meeting for the time being. When I have something to tell you, I'll naturally tell you. Kuyu was taken aback. When he regained his senses, he was a little angry. Please leave this place. Don't disturb us. Let me guess, you should be discussing how to drive me out of the sect, right? Ku-san sneered and sat directly in a seat in the hall. Withered Falcon, don't think too highly of yourself. You're just an immortal monarch. You're just helping the sect master deal with the matters of the sect. Do you really think that your position in the sect is unparalleled? Hearing Ku-san's words, an old man in the first layer of the Immortal King realm sneered. Do all of you have the same idea? Ku-san looked around. Seeing that you've made some contributions to the sect, you should take the initiative to leave Tianling Mountain. Otherwise, I'll immediately cripple your cultivation. With the support of a few immortal kings, Kuyu did not put him in his eyes at all. He pointed at him and scolded in a low voice. Let me hear it again. Before Kuyu's voice fell, Ku-san's figure suddenly disappeared from the hall. In less than a breath, his hand had already grabbed Kuyu's neck. He stared at Kuyu and asked faintly, You're not Ku-san. When their eyes met, Kuyu clearly felt that something was wrong with Ku-sundae. He felt all the hair on his body stand on end. Because of fear, even his voice became shrill. Ku-san, let go of the young sect master. Ku-san, you're pushing yourself to a point of no return. If you dare to hurt the young sect master, we'll definitely kill you here today. After the few immortal kings reacted, they all pointed at him and scolded loudly. A bunch of minions. Do you really think you're a match for me? Ku-san smiled sinisterly. He directly lifted Kuyu and threw him heavily to the ground. With this throw, Kuyu directly spat out a mouthful of blood. Young sect master. Everyone quickly surrounded him and protected him behind them. They also stared at Ku-san, ready to attack at any time. There's no need for Tianling Mountain to exist in the eastern region. If you submit to me now, you still have a chance to survive. Otherwise, I'll turn you into ashes in an instant. Standing in the hall, Ku-san looked at the people standing below. There was no emotion in his words. Traitor of the sect. A sect protector who had just advanced to the Immortal King realm could not help but take a step forward. He was still very familiar with Ku Sun's strength. He was around the immortal Lord realm. There was no problem in dealing with him at all. Oh, Ku Sun was a little surprised. I'll kill you now and clean up the sect for the sect master. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately rushed up. Ku Sun looked at his figure and directly waved his hand. A few finger-thick black pillars shot out and directly entered the former's body, nailing him to the wall of the hall a few meters away. Ku Sun. After seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. This kind of method did not seem like a move of their Tianling Mountain at all. Moreover, when Ku Sun attacked just now, the aura that erupted from him also made them feel terrified. It could be said that the Ku Sun in front of them was completely different from the Ku Sun they knew. Who else wants to try? Ku Sun raised his head and looked at them. What on earth do you want to do? Kuyu swallowed his saliva and was a little afraid. He knew that if Ku Sun attacked him just now, he would not have the chance to stand here and speak at all. Submit to me, Ku Sun said indifferently. Immediately, he clenched his fist hard, and the immortal king who was stabbed into the wall by him let out a sharp scream. A few pillars twisted under his control and pierced toward his heart. Under their dull gazes, the pillars directly pierced through the heart. The immortal king struggled hard, but it did not have any effect. A moment later, his originally twisting limbs stiffened, and his aura slowly disappeared. Chapter 1638. Young Sect Master. The remaining immortal kings did not know what to do. Now that Ku Falcon could kill a cultivator in the first layer of the immortal king realm so easily, it wasn't something they could handle. I'll listen to your orders. Kuyu hesitated for a moment, then knelt down on one knee. Now that his father was dead, these immortal kings in the sect could not save his life. The only thing they could do now was to listen to Ku Sunday otherwise. He felt that he would end up in a worse state than this immortal king. What about you guys? Ku Sun pointed at the few people standing beside Kuyu. We'll listen to your orders too. Even Kuyu had given up on resisting, so they did not want to risk their lives for it. Huh? Consider it your duty. Kuyu stays. The rest of you leave. Ku Sun laughed loudly, then turned and sat on Ku Wanjuan's seat. The immortal kings did not dare to speak and could only retreat, leaving Kuyu standing there trembling. After the immortal kings left, the door of the main hall suddenly closed. Kuyu subconsciously turned back to look and saw the immortal king nailed to the wall, dead in a tragic state. His legs went weak and he fell to the ground. Do you want to kill Jiangqin? Ku Sun's figure flashed and he appeared in front of him. Yes. Kuyu nodded in a daze. Very good. I'll help you. Ku Sun reached out and placed his hand on Kuyu's shoulder. A wisp of black aura flowed from his palm into Kuyu's body. Before Kuyu could react, he felt a huge force wrap around him. After a moment, Ku Sun retracted his hand. Kuyu was in the same situation as the three immortal kings. His eyes were faintly black and his aura had become dark and gloomy. The next day, Jiangchun rubbed his aching temples. Yesterday, he had looked through the few immortal techniques in the treasury. Although there were some moves that he could not comprehend, Jiangchun was already able to fuse two different types of immortal energy together. However, according to the explanation of the fusion method, in order to fuse three or more types, one's cultivation must be at the immortal venerable realm or even the immortal monarch realm. With his current cultivation at the heavenly immortal realm, it was already not easy for him to be able to fuse two types. In the past, Jiangchun would not have cared about such things. As long as his cultivation base was sufficient, it was fine. Not to mention, he had the support of his senior brothers and sisters in the heavenly secret pavilion. Even if he were to encounter danger, he could easily deal with it. But now, Jiangqin was somewhat dissatisfied with his strength. First, there was the Black Sect master secretly making a move against him. Bai Xiaoyan alone was not enough to protect him. Second, he saw the person who looked like his mother in the immortal emperor's enchantment. Jiangqin had a premonition that that woman should be his mother. According to Bai Xianling, his mother might be living in an unknown area in the immortal realm. The map given by Emperor Qianji should be the exact location of his mother's residence. Jiang Chen wanted to look for it, but he knew that his strength was not enough to enter the unknown region. After all, it was a place that even Bai Xianling was wary of. He was afraid that he would only be qualified to enter it when he reached the Immortal King realm. "Mother, I'll definitely find you." Jiang Chen held the art of fusion tightly in his hand and said in a deep voice, "What are you talking about?" The door opened, and Bai Xiaoyan walked in with a smirk on her face. "Nothing. I'm thinking about whether to return to the Heavenly Secret Pavilion." Jiang Chen kept the art of fusion and said, "I'm the sect master now. I can't always be outside." "That's nothing. When Master built the Heavenly Secret Pavilion, there were disciples who entered the sect for 4 or 5 years without seeing him. You've only been out for a few days. Besides, we're not here to play. During this period of time, we've earned at least a few billion immortal jades for the sect. It's enough to cover the sect's daily expenses for a few years." Bai Xiaoyan sat beside Jiang Chen and said, "Junior brother, now I'm more and more convinced that Master's decision to give you the position of sect master was very correct. Senior brother, what method do you have to increase my cultivation base in a short time?" Jiang Chen was not interested in the Heavenly Secret Pavilion. "Didn't you just become a celestial immortal?" Bai Xiaoyan was a little surprised. "Your speed is far beyond most people, and it's too risky. If it weren't for Old Shoe's protection, I'm afraid you would have exploded and died in the tomb." "I know." Jiang Chen nodded. He could clearly feel the danger he had faced that day. "So, you don't have to worry now. When your cultivation base increases, it will naturally increase. This kind of thing can't be rushed. What's more, we're here to protect you, so you don't have to worry too much." Bai Xiaoyan thought that Jiang Chen was worried about the Black Sect's sect master, so she comforted him. "Okay." Jiang Chen nodded helplessly. After resting in the Qinna sect for 2 days, Jiang Chen was ready to leave. The auction and the Immortal Emperor's tomb were over, so it was useless to continue to stay in the eastern region. It was better to return to the Kunlun Immortal Mountain and go into seclusion to see if he could study these immortal techniques. Even if he only learned a little, he would have some confidence when dealing with the Black Sect's sect master in the future. After bidding farewell to the Great Elder, Jiang Chen left the Qinna sect with Bai Xiaoyan, Bai Fengyu, and the little ape Wafu, standing at the door. The first elder looked at the departing figure and let out a deep sigh. "Great Elder, it seems that we still can't keep him." A protector stood beside the Great Elder and said faintly, "He's the pavilion master of the Heavenly Secret Pavilion and the leader of the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance. It's too difficult to keep him here. He also disdains to stay in our Qinna sect." The Great Elder smiled helplessly and continued, "I only hope that this kid can remember this kindness and help our Qinna sect when we encounter trouble in the future." "Trouble?" "Our Qinna sect stands tall in the eastern region. No sect dares to provoke us. Great Elder, you're an expert no weaker than the 3 immortal kings. What trouble will our sect encounter?" These words made the protector a little confused. "You don't know." The Great Elder smiled. "Is it Tianlang Mountain and the other 2 sects?" The protector racked his brains, but still couldn't think of any trouble the sect would encounter. "If it's them, I don't have to worry so much." "Forget it. It's useless to tell you now. You only need to know that the disaster of our Qinna sect is coming soon. It depends on whether the sect master can come out of seclusion before then. It also depends on whether Jiang Chen will help us." The Great Elder waved his hand, obviously unwilling to say anything more. Jiang Chen is just a celestial immortal. How can he help when even the Great Elder can't solve the problem? The protector was even more confused. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.